South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show. Every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome in. It is Sports by the Book Football Frenzy on a Friday. We're happy to be with you. I need to get a synonym that begins with an F to stay with the alliterations on this show. I'm Jeff Parles. Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo is here right now. Well, they've even gave Vinny a flag today, which is
don't give it. Be careful. There's too many of those floating around anyway.
There we go.
Get rid of them.
Oh, nice touch.
There we go. With the left hand, no less. Got it over the top.
Look like a Jack Milgren pitch. Nobody knows what I'm talking about.
We're going back in the day on Army or Navy there, Chris.
Oklahoma.
Oh, let's see.
We're playing that game of the century when Johnny Rogers returned the punt return for Nebraska.
That game of the century.
See, I actually knew it was Nebraska and Oklahoma.
No, you didn't.
No, I did actually. Well, no, when you said game of the century, I did.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know the names, but I knew the game of the century.
Vinny, what was that, 35-31? Something like
35, 31, or 30. Yeah, I think you're right.
Let's
I think that. Well,
Johnny Rogers returned it the touchdown.
35-31.
Very good, Chrissy. Very good.
Nebraska over Oklahoma.
71, Jeff?
1971.
71. God, the old man still got it.
Still got it. You cashed that ticket.
That was when it was the Big 8, right?
And I seriously can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. I remember breakfast.
Valuable information we store.
Well, the important.
Just ask our wives. How do you guys remember that stuff?
So before we get into the football for the weekend,
yeah,
I just want to start with what this week has been because college basketball started on Monday. Chris is wearing a Jayhawk shirt because Kansas welcomes North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina.
And I was stunned by this. It is the first time that North Carolina's played at the Phog in over 40 years.
I'm stunned myself.
Isn't that 40, especially with the connection?
Sure.
With Roy Williams, of course, leaving Kansas to go to North Carolina.
They've had a connection since Phog Allen.
Yeah. It's pretty surprising.
It really is.
That they have not gone to Lawrence in that long. But that, by the way, Kansas is 8 right now in that game this evening.
They laid to 7.5.
Which might upset my wife, who is a Kansas grad. I'll be taking the points in that game with North Carolina.
I was going to say, she's going to have to lay the worst of the number.
Yeah, no, I know.
First, there's a couple of things. Just a little advice, all right? You don't have to watch it with her, number one. Number
the
two,
show's going to end right at the game started, so I'm guaranteed to at least miss a portion of it.
Well, and then, honey, it's business. It's not personal.
Well, honey, it's preseason.
Well, remember, the last time those teams met, it was in a national championship game. And, of course, Kansas came from 15 down at halftime to beat North Carolina.
What year was that?
That was 2021, right? 21-22. 22.
22.
The 22 championship
season
game.
when
Yeah.
UNC came back to
That was
22.
That was UNC as an 8 seed.
Yeah.
UNC
Oh,
is
yes.
UNC
Okay,
is an
yeah.
8 seed.
Yeah.
Beating Krzyzewski in his final game,
Yeah.
too, in
Yeah.
the Final Four. A lot of people that think Kansas had one of the easiest runs to a national title ever, but that's not my take. That's other people's take. And if you win a national championship, who gives a crap how you do it? That's how I would go with that. But
Good game.
that started this week. NBA's in full swing. Hockey's in full swing. We're in the nitty-gritty of football season now, and especially in the college end. Obviously, this is quite the time to be betting sports right now.
Yeah, and in case people aren't aware of that, October was one of the best months for the public.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been here since '79. One of the best months ever for the public. I can give you a quick story. I'm in a football contest, and usually if you get about 100, 110 points in that contest, you win it. Well, the one week, and I finished last that week, by the way, because I went against the public in every game. There was like 20 guys over 100. There's only like 75 in the contest, So I was talking to the commissioner yesterday. He says, yeah, no wonder you got killed that week. He said, all our guys did great. And that's just the way it goes. You just got to live with it and come out the next day punching.
Yeah, exact opposite of September.
Exactly. Right.
So
Right.
it happens.
Yeah. Well,
Bettors have to win sometime. If they don't win.
Yeah.
But it sets up, to your point, Jeff, November is one of the biggest handle months of the year for the reasons that you cited.
Well, and it also won't hurt at the end of the month, the final Saturday of the month. Get your behind to the South Point or to the Rampart or up to the Gaughn Gaming Properties up in Mesquite to make sure you get in on this college rivalry jackpot parlay card. 15 games. You pick 15 winners, you're going to have a darn good shot of getting a share of at least $25,000.
Or you're definitely going to get a share of $25,000.
Yeah, you're guaranteed a share of it.
No points.
No points. $5 a card, as many cards as you want.
Many cards you want.
And if you're going to do what Dwayne always tells us every week now when we bring it up, if you're going to do 100 cards at once, please go when there's not a game starting in 20 minutes.
Yeah, don't do it Saturday morning at 8:30.
Yeah, do it. Come in on the Wednesday morning before Thanksgiving and take care of it. Yeah. And do that. All right, let's get into these games here this weekend, guys. Let's start in college. There's 4 games tonight. We're going to talk about half of them tonight, and we're going to start with a conference matchup in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The California Golden Bears travel east to take on their ACC brethren, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. My goodness, what a sentence I just uttered there. Chris, 7.5 on this game, total 54.5. This has been a toggler, but it's been not a traditional toggler here because you moved to 7 initially, and then toggling started between 7.5 and 8,
right?
And now it's back to 7.5 on Wake Forest as the dog at home.
I'd like the favorite, so it was mostly 7 in the market, and I opened 7.5. Somebody grabbed it right away. Went to 7. They laid back to 7, really, with a vengeance. Went to 7.5. I didn't see much activity at 7.5, so I went to 8. Like I said, I did like the favorite, so I didn't want to go in needing that game for a fortune. Anyway, they took the 8. Now it's 7.5. They're even probably taking a little bit of the 7.5 on that game. So I think we'll wind up probably close to even on the game unless something big comes in the next 2 hours, which it very well could. But we'll see. I kind of like the favorite, though, on that one.
Yeah, these are games now. Right? We've seen more travel with this with these revived conferences, more travel than ever before. Right? I mean, teams. There were some extended road trips or back and forths, but now you're going coast to coast in a lot of cases, and that comes into play into the handicap. I think Chris is right. I think there's going to be some support for the home team with a lot more likely to go to 7 than back to 8. I don't think we'll see 8.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Cal's road games this year, they have traveled a ton of mileage this year. Remember, non-conference, they went to Auburn. They won that game.
Right.
They went to Tallahassee. They're responsible for Florida State's only win on the season right now. They went to Pitt. Remember, they played Pitt really tough in that game. Pitt didn't cover.
Right.
And now won a 2-point win for the Panthers. And then you have this, and then their last road trip is actually tame in comparison to everything I just mentioned. They go to Dallas to take on SMU, who quite frankly, SMU is going to be playing for an ACC title berth.
They might drive to that game.
Yeah. Berkeley to Dallas, saddle up, my friends. But
I think they're on a Greyhound.
Yeah. Interesting game here. Both of these teams are 4-4. We can start playing the bowl game dance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now that we're in November, we can start playing that. Cal is going to be favored at home against Stanford in the big game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Feel pretty confident about that. They'll be favored, obviously, tonight, as we know. Them and Syracuse is almost an impossible line for me to line.
Yeah.
Like, that's really difficult. That's next week. And then there'll be probably a 2-touchdown underdog on the road in Dallas against SMU.
Probably at least that.
So got to get this if you're Cal. And if you're Wake Forest, this is probably, with the way it breaks down, there'll probably be a bigger underdog next week in Chapel Hill. Maybe. I don't know. Or probably around this, honestly, give or take. There'll be a gigantic dog in Miami, approaching 4 touchdowns in that game. And then they host Duke. I wouldn't be shocked if Wake is favored in that game now that Duke has regressed to the mean a little bit.
Yeah, they have.
The last few weeks. So that's kind of where we're at on these teams. All right, let's go to Los Angeles. Conference game again. Boy, I love this. Iowa at UCLA. Finally, the Hawkeyes get to go to the Rose Bowl, fellas. 6.5 here with Iowa on the road in this one. Fun game. UCLA's been better.
Yes,
they're getting better.
They got the win at Rutgers. They got the upset win against Nebraska as well. This looked like a monster uphill climb to make a bowl. It still is, but 3 home games, it's not impossible now, unlike what it looked like about 3 weeks ago. Iowa, look, it all depends on what version of the Hawkeyes offense we're getting at this point. If we get the competent version of this Hawkeye offense, I think Iowa wins this game and probably covers. If we get the not competent version of this Iowa offense, good luck trying to figure out what we're getting in this game, and that probably would lean to a UCLA cover here for me.
My numbers came to 7, but even when I wrote that down, I said, not so
Seems like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA is definitely playing better. And, you kind of alluded to it. The UCLA offense is very inconsistent. I mean, the Iowa offense is very inconsistent. So the good Iowa, probably covers or comes close. But bad Iowa showed up way too often. Like I said, my numbers came to 7, but I think I'd either play the dog or pass in this game.
Starting to see some more overs in the result-wise in Iowa games, right? And you know that UCLA is going to press the pace a bit. So this game initially they took the 6. I've got to believe they'll take 6.5. I think folks are actually waiting maybe to see if it goes to 7, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I think they'll take the 6.5 for sure with the home team. They never quit. I mean, they just keep playing and give credit to the players and the coaching staff.
Yeah, the thing is, okay, they did lay the 5.5 after we went down there. Not much of a home field advantage, though.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I got them 1. It's my home field advantage for them,
a little subplot here, though, too. You're talking about UCLA, and they're playing better lately. They're playing better than USC for recruiting purposes in the area, right? I mean, when you think about it, I mean, even though that they're not, their record doesn't indicate it as much, but certainly they're playing better in the last 3 weeks than SC.
It's a tumultuous time for the Trojans, who are not in action this week. But Jaden Mayava, the UNLV transfer, is going to start after the bye, and Miller Moss is in the transfer portal already.
Is he really?
So, yeah. So this is Lincoln Riley is he's nowhere near as good as people make him out to be. Let's just go with that. Look at the 2 quarterbacks he's won with. Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts. Both guys were NFL quarterbacks anyway.
Yeah.
Even without his tutelage, at least to me. All right, let's keep moving here. Let's go to Saturday. We start in rotation number order, as we always do. The Pitt Panthers, who talk about coming back to earth, my goodness, last week. SMU just pummeled Pitt. And honestly, I'm a little aggravated with myself that I didn't take more of SMU.
At the half especially?
Oh, wow. Look, we've talked about a lot of these teams that have been big-time overachievers and, to me, luck boxes this year. And Pitt fell into that category, and boy, did SMU expose them last week. Now Pitt returns home. Kind of surprised they were ranked in the college football playoff rankings. We'll get to those a little bit later in the show. I know Vinny wants to talk about that. You get a Virginia team here this week that I don't think any of us on the desk think are particularly good. I have no problem with this number where it's sitting at right now, guys. 7.5 with Pitt at home in this one. 57.5 the total at the moment, Chris.
We opened 8. They took it. They took 7.5. Went to 7. They laid it back. So I'm kind of with you. I think I kind of like Pitt a little in this game, but not much. And we talk about home fields. Pitt, I give them a 2-point home field advantage. They play in Acrisure, whatever we call that, the old
Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah.
Heinz.
I mean,
Heinz Field, just called that.
They probably get about 35,000 people in that stadium, which really kind of makes it a bit of a morgue. So not much of a home field advantage, but I think they have enough to handle Virginia here.
Well, look to rebound right after last week and try to, coaching staff's ability to now bring them back up with maybe some help, outside help, a hope of I don't think they don't need more than help to get to the ACC title game at this point too because of tiebreakers. But we'll see. We'll see what they're made of if they can come back. But I think there'll be more support for Pitt than Virginia.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like I don't know if Virginia's not the right team to take advantage of a potentially falling apart Pitt. Maybe this turns into a losing streak. We don't know. Nothing at least for me on this game. All right, let's go to Austin. The Gators go to Texas, and I'll just say this about Florida last week. If DJ Lagway doesn't get hurt in that first half and re-injure his hamstring like he now has done multiple times on this season, apparently he's closer. He hasn't been fully ruled out of this game yet, which is kind of amazing based off what Billy Napier, who got one of the weirder votes of confidence I've ever heard earlier in the week from Florida.
What exactly was it? Because I saw
he's coming back next year.
They're sticking with him.
But it was not a great vote of confidence, in all honesty. I think Florida, if Lagway stays healthy, might have won that game last week against Georgia. And we'll get to Georgia later in the show, but this Florida team, for how big of a disaster they were the first month of the season, Napier's done a nice job, all things considered. They're not going to go to a bowl, probably because their schedule is just ridiculous, including this game here against the Horns, who are coming off a bye as 22.5-point favorites in this game now.
I made this number a little lower. Even with the injuries and everything else, I really thought like 20.5 was a good number. I opened at 21, and of course they laid 21, they laid 22, they laid 20. Well, I'm up to 22.5. They haven't laid that yet. But I'm comfortable needing a dog here. I think this team's playing really hard. You never know the relationship that players have with their coaches. Well, especially now with the transfer portal. I used to say, well, the kids probably want to play hard for the guy that recruited them. I don't even know who recruited who anymore, Vinny, I got to tell you. But I still think the team is playing pretty hard, and I think they can hang in here and cover 22.5.
If it gets to 23, there'll be a take, right? I mean, let's. I don't think that's a mystery. Maybe that's what folks are waiting for. But I agree with you, Jeff. He doesn't get hurt last week. They got a real good chance of beating the Bulldogs for sure and knocking them pretty much probably probably out of the playoffs. So, but Texas looking to rebound, things to get things right too, right? With the only one they want to keep that only one loss to their favor. So, favored for a reason here, and it's got a lot to do with just the overall talent, but particularly the injury at quarterback for Florida.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern here. If I knew that Lagway was going to be 100%, this would be an automatic take the points. Texas probably wins this game by 14, 17, but over 3 touchdowns is a ton. But even if Lagway goes, how effective can he be? How long will he make it?
Yeah.
We saw Aiden Warner. Look, he did his best. He's overmatched in that game. What are you going to do? He will be overmatched if he's the one who gets the majority of snaps again against Texas's defense that has as much talent as Georgia's defense. Horns also have annihilated teams they're more talented than this year. We've already seen that basically every time they've gone up against a weaker foe. They have really ran them out, except for Vanderbilt, who we'll get to a little bit later in the show. All right, let's go to the Big 12. Regional rivalries, West Virginia and Cincinnati. Nice to see this one come back into existence in conference play again. This
does.
Again,
it's a big recruiting game.
Yeah, it's like a fun little matchup here. West Virginia is a 4-point underdog on the road in this game. WVU, look at their injury report before you place
Right.
a bet here. Just see what the status of Garrett Green is by the time this game starts. He didn't play their last game, but they won against chronic disaster Arizona at this point. The Wildcats have been as bad as anyone. Cincinnati's been a little bit better than we would have thought. Braden Sorsby's been good. These are two teams that are likely going to a bowl game here this year in 2024, Chris.
I think with a healthy quarterback, this thing's looking more like pick'em.
I agree.
Yeah.
At most since he won.
Yeah, right. So right around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're dickering over
Exactly.
a little point here.
Yeah.
But, like Jeff said, check the injury report. I mean, if he goes, I think you probably take a good shot with West Virginia. But, once again, if he goes or doesn't go, how effective is he going to be? They just got him limping out there. I would definitely stay away from this game. I don't like to play these injury games too much, but this one definitely would be careful.
It's in the NFL, we always have the inactives, right? Probably about 45 minutes before kickoff. You don't get that in college, but what you can do is try to monitor on school websites, right, and social media these days. But school websites sometimes have it and a better idea, but err on the side of caution when it comes to injuries, right? You almost have to anticipate with an injury or a player that left last week or came in and out, probably not going to go, or if they do go, as we talked about in the case of the Florida situation, not going to be 100%.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be the backup as of this moment, at least in line to start right now.
The numbers kind of telling you that.
Yeah, numbers telling exactly. Without Green, I think this number's perfectly fine. Two coaches I don't really love. I've said my piece on Satterfield all year. Neil Brown's fine, but
Yeah, he's okay.
he's okay. He's not more than that. All right, let's go to Arrowhead Stadium next. Chris's shirt, but not the reason he's wearing it here today.
No.
Kansas hosting Iowa State. Now, I'll just tell you this. With Kansas at 2-6, in the middle of just this complete monster disappointment season where they haven't had these type of expectations in football in 15 years.
Never recovered from the UNLV game.
No, they never recovered from, honestly, the Illinois game
the
the week
Illinois,
before
right.
that.
Yeah, true.
Where they were leading in the
start
fourth
of the
quarter. And
season.
then, just Kansas has one win in a one-score game this year. And all their losses, 5 of their 6 losses are one-score games. Wow. So they've had pretty bad luck in one-score games. On the other side, Iowa State, up until last week, has had tremendous luck in close games. Last week, Texas Tech finally got them in a close game, winning by a point. Week before that, they needed to come out of a double-digit hole to beat Central Florida. They needed that late field goal and a big comeback to beat Iowa earlier in the year. And I think the number here, Chris, is kind of telling you what the market thinks of both of these teams, where it's only 2.5. If anything, I think Iowa State has a home field advantage over Kansas in this game because let's just look at the Big 12 basketball tournament. Those fans from Iowa State come down and are usually the second most prevalent fan base only behind Kansas basketball. Kansas is 2-6 in the middle of this mess of a year. Iowa State still has a shot to make the college football playoff. I wouldn't be shocked that this is 75-25 Iowa State fans in this game, but the numbers moved from 3 to 2.5 on this game with Iowa State favored at Arrowhead in this one.
This one, I made it 3.
Yeah.
What's my numbers came to. They took it, and once again, well, I'm okay with that if I need Iowa State in this game. But I think Campbell's had a way of winning a lot of close games over his career.
Sure.
I mean, it's not just an aberration 1 year in a row. He had a couple other years where he's won a bunch of close games. But all that, I still love Leipold. I don't know what happened at Kansas this year. I would look for them to rally again next year. But in this spot here, kind of favor Iowa State, even though made the number 3. It's certainly not a number play. But I think this is a team that has a habit of pulling out these close games. I have a feeling they're going to pull this one out too.
Jeff, you bring up an interesting point about the fans, and how, it's not quite a neutral site, but it's not on campus. Here's the thing. You're asking, particularly the student body, to double back after a basketball game tonight at the Fog against North Carolina. and then show up at Arrowhead tomorrow.
Yeah,
right?
I figure that one's going to be sold out.
That one's been sold out before the game was even announced.
That's a different. But think about that, right? I mean, so especially if they win tonight. I mean, it's a 7-8 point favorite. Little celebrating on a Friday night.
Yeah,
so,
what makes you say that? They'll be out at the wheel in Lawrence, Kansas.
There you go.
For you.
So
on
just
that
a
night.
little sidebar there from a fan's perspective.
What's the wheel?
The wheel's one of the college bars there on.
Okay, is that the they had a like kind of a gastro pub, their own little brewery? That's not the wheel, is it? That's where I was years ago.
There's a bunch of names. The wheel's the one of the famous ones.
Okay, that's not the one I was at.
That I know. I'll just throw this out there real quick. From our chat, Bob likes Iowa State. He also was advocating teasing this game, and we're just doing this as a public service announcement. Don't tease college games. Just don't do it. Don't do it.
No.
But Bob does like Iowa State in that one.
Tease who? Tease which side?
Well, his teaser,
he's teasing Iowa State
makes no
down.
sense based off
cross zero.
what we had.
Don't tease college games. It's very poor value.
Yeah, it just doesn't work out. All right, let's go to Atlanta. Miami taking on Georgia Tech. Canes are 10 on the road. Canes lock in, by the way, in the initial college football playoff rankings with the ACC championship in tow based off these rankings as the number 4 overall team, but the number 3 seed because of the way that it busts out. Remember, college football playoff now, 12 teams. The top 5 conference championship teams will go. The top 4 will get a bye to the quarters. That was reminded to us on Tuesday when those came out. Miami, who, again, it's kind of weird to say in a game they won by 22 points. They were kind of begging to get beat for about 2.5 quarters, and then they just turned it on, winning that game by 22 despite being down 10 midway through the third quarter. Yellow Jackets, again, their season has kind of just been average, where we got all excited because they beat Florida State in Dublin, and then Florida State's in the middle of this all-time bad season for them. It's 10 on the road here. Again, Haynes King, we're just waiting. We're just waiting at this point. It's almost been a month. As of right now, there's been no real indication of if he's going to be able to go. He's questionable and very questionable at that right now, guys.
A little bit of play on the dog here, but nothing much. I think we opened at 11. Are we down to 10 or 10.5, Jeff?
You're at 10 even.
We're at 10. A little play on the dog, but nothing really dramatic to take a close look at.
I think there'll be plenty of Miami money tonight and tomorrow leading up to kickoff, honestly, in this one, simply because, King is – and if he does come back, is he how healthy is he, right? I mean, if he's still questionable. So Miami keeps finding a way.
Real quick, college football
Bettors
playoff.
Believe that.
College football playoff bracket-wise, they came out earlier this week. So, I know there will always be a dispute over power rankings versus what the rankings are. For non-betting people, the biggest complaint was over BYU. If anything, I thought BYU was overrated a few spots, but that's a different argument for a different time. There it is if you're seeing on your screen, 1 through 12 on the list and how it comes out in the bracket. There were the other part of this, and Vinny, I want to go to you first, where Penn State comes off the loss against Ohio State last weekend and still is rated 6th and gets the 7th seed off the virtue of the buys and such, and still gets a college football home playoff game, which I think there are some people that did question that as well, especially if we look at some power rankings.
Well, I can tell you this, and when we talk about power ratings, right, we talk about what the number is, and you base it on a neutral field. However, if in this case where they're the home field, and their home field is pretty significant. I mean, you've got a Happy Valley with 111,000 people. It probably gives them at least a field goal, maybe 4, right? I don't know if it'll be that high, 4 in a playoff game, but I can, in my power ratings, I still have, Miami. I've got below them. I think they have Bama, Mississippi, and Notre Dame, right? Ole
Miss was 15 in these rankings.
They would be favored over Penn State on a neutral. So, again, it just I've always said, polls don't determine prices. This is the format that the committee is going with, and they get a home game, which is significant. I mean, when I say they'd be a dog, I've got Notre Dame, I've got Mississippi, and I've got Bama about 3 over Penn State on a neutral field. So probably a pick 'em at home, But you know what? I think the public would support some of those schools, especially if they're getting points. What do you think, Chris?
Not going to disagree. I think right now I'm looking at my rankings. I have Mississippi a point better than Penn State. I got Penn State 2 points better than Miami. You talked about it all year. Miami just keeps looking for ways to lose games. Yeah. I mean, they win them, but I don't have them that high.
Super talented.
I got Penn State 2 points better. I got them 1 point better than Tennessee. I got them 2 points better than Notre Dame. And so, I mean, they're all like right there. But see, I would disagree. I think if you get a team like, let's take a Southern team, goes up late December into Penn State, they're going to be a full 4 points home field advantage. I mean,
especially
whatever.
if that game's at night.
Yeah, whatever those rankings are. I mean, like I said, I've been saying this for a multitude of years. I want to see some of these Southern teams go up north on games that count. They're always played these bowl games in like perfect or semi-perfect conditions. I mean, the NFL isn't like that.
No.
This is, listen, I'm very old school. I'm kind of a Big Ten guy. Yeah, I want to see games being played in bad weather and let's see what you're made out of. I mean, and it's not just Penn State. Let's see them go to the Horseshoe, go to Michigan, go to Notre Dame. If we ever get Nebraska back up on those.
How about going to Bloomington potentially this year? What a sentence that is now.
Yeah, I mean, is that outdoor stadium?
Oh yeah,
at Indiana.
Yeah, let them play at Indiana. I mean, I want to see these guys playing weather, and that's why I think that. And listen, that's what makes gambling.
Oh yeah,
well, that's what makes
they
price
should be
making.
a 2-point favorite. And I think they should be a 2-point dog, or whatever. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, it'll be again a lot to be hammered out. Obviously, the game in Baton Rouge this week's going to go a long way to figuring
There's
out.
playoff elimination
That's
games
an elimination game.
from now on.
There's 2 SEC games this week we'll get to, of course, the Ole Miss Georgia game a little bit later as well. That is an elimination spot for Ole Miss.
I think so. For sure, Ole Miss.
They're done. If the Ole Miss wins that game, then the SEC gets very complicated very quickly.
Yes.
On that, Chris, we don't have a lot to say about this game, but you mentioned this is just an insane action game of Navy, who's lost 2 in a row, going to Tampa to take on South Florida. Bulls a 3-point home dog in this one against the Midshipmen.
Yeah, we talked about, we can't hit every game. We don't have, so we were going to eliminate this one. I says, hang on a second, Jeff. I got so much business on this game, you can't believe it. Laid 2.5, took 3, laid back 2.5, laid 3. I mean, so we're all over the place here, but we got a couple games like this week, and we're not going to hit every one of them. But this one was just a monster handle, and I know Vinny usually goes over the totals, but we had so much total action this week. It's unbelievable. I don't know what we have, and we didn't have much in the Navy game, but I mean, the action has really been terrific this week. And listen, if we could just kind of hold our own, hold serve, and win our percentage, I'll be very happy. But this is one of those games where we just did a ton of business.
A little bit of move to the under, right? What, 58 to 57? Yeah.
Yeah, Navy's eliminated from college football playoff contention now, especially after forget the Notre Dame loss, losing last week though, right? That's the killer more so than anything for the Midshipmen in that. Probably leaving just Tulane and Army as the potential AAC teams that could still make it. Army, by the way, this week we're still waiting on Daly.
Right.
They are a favorite only by 3. Well, that's moved down. So
a lot of movement there, too.
Yeah, let's assume that Daly's probably not playing based off that move from 5.5 to 3.
Yeah,
now.
and, listen, you have to respect the armed forces. They don't really tell you so much about injuries, and I thoroughly understand that. They're the 3 schools that, forget the bullshit. There's more important things than football. Can't say that about Ohio State or Georgia or anybody else. Right. But Army, Navy, and Air Force, so they keep a lot of stuff secret.
Top secret.
Yeah, absolutely. Confidential.
Yeah,
but Navy's playoff game is now the Army game. The Army-Navy game.
I mean, 100%.
That's the game.
Well, that's always the game, but we'll have even, especially if both of them are not in the college football playoff, will always has meaning, but there won't be any nonsense hanging over potentially. All right. The bettors' favorite team goes to the Horseshoe this week. Ohio State hosts Purdue. The bettors again last week, Chris. It doesn't make
And this week.
Yeah, and
Took
this
them
week,
again.
yeah. Well, this week they take them off 38 to move it to 37, 54. Look, Ohio State. I can't believe I'm about to say this.
Go ahead and say it.
Ohio State the next 2 weeks play the two worst teams arguably in the conference, Purdue and Northwestern back-to-back. You could have a 2-week look-ahead spot coming for Ohio State, where those last two games, the Michigan game, obviously the final week of the season, but that game against Indiana is gigantic now.
Oh, you bet.
Gigantic, assuming Indiana doesn't fumble in their 10th game where Indiana's hosting Michigan. We'll get to them later on. But that Ohio State-Indiana game is a gigantic game for not forget just Big Ten championship. That's a gigantic game for the college football playoff now.
Who would have thought that?
Yeah, I know, exactly. 37 in this one this week for the Buckeyes at home against the Boilers.
Well, they're
betting the
on
Boilers
Purdue
again.
Took 38.
I think last week one of my picks was just against Purdue. Not that I love Northwestern all that much, but Jeff, would they cover 1 or 2 games all this year?
Purdue has covered 2 games.
They've covered 2.
One of them was the FCS opponent.
Okay, that one, would we take a nickel on those kind of games?
And the other one was that ridiculous game against Illinois.
Right, which I don't know what the hell happened there.
Yeah.
But that one actually was a great game, and they did cover, But, they're on them every week. And, like I said, I don't know. The wise guys got enamored with this team for some reason, and they haven't let up, including this week. Although at least, they did take 38.
38
this week.
or whatever, yeah.
I get that, yeah.
I think, it's a play. Well, you've got perhaps a letdown combined with you said 2 week a 2-week lookout on a anticipating a look ahead spot. A little bit difficult to look ahead with the one loss, even though it was by a point to the number one ranked team in the country in both power and many power ratings, as well as by the pollsters, by the committee. But again, taking 38 points in a game after the Penn State game, and okay, so you said Northwestern next week, then it gets real. Much more competitive, right? So I think it's just a play on a number, and you say, well, it's not a key number, right? When we always talk about that, right? When we talk about 3s and 7s and 10s. But I tell you what, when you're getting better than 5 touchdowns, you're going to take it.
Well, when you're getting up into that stratosphere, 38 happens a lot more than 37. Yeah. So
I wouldn't buy half a point, though.
No, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, only if it was a pick 'em, Chris. That's the only way to do that. All right, let's.
One of the best.
You're a treasure trove of stories. I still think that's my favorite.
That's your favorite. It's one of the.
It's even out of crying candy.
Like I said, if you were there, if you weren't there, you would think I'm making it up, and I am not making it up one bit.
Let's go to the Holy War, shall we? Conference matchup yet again for BYU and Utah, and this has been a disaster for the Utes. There's no sugarcoating it. This was a team that was supposed to win the Big 12, supposed to be in a college football playoff. Instead, they're fighting to get to a bowl game. They're 4-4. Of course, Cam Rising barely played again this year, and Isaac Wilson just isn't quite ready yet. But boy, would Utah love to spoil BYU's party here.
Yeah, they sure would.
Because these two teams hate each other, and they've always hated each other. And this game's in Salt Lake City. It's at Rice Eccles in prime time in Salt Lake. This is this is me, maybe my bias against this BYU team's coming out here. But I took the bigger numbers earlier in the week with Utah.
4.5?
The 4. 4 was the biggest number I got, but that's
early toggle and then the late toggle.
The late toggle.
Double toggle game.
I still like Utah. Even at 3, I like them on the money line. I think this is a season spoiler here for BYU, who has been, yes, they've been good at times. Their defense is legit, but they have gotten super lucky in 3 games this year where a bounce of the ball the wrong way, and we're talking about this being just a bunch of average teams trying to get the bowl games at this point.
Well, this is completely anecdotal. I don't know how to really go back and objectively look at this, but one thing I've noticed over the years, and one team is like horribly disappointing, which would be Utah.
Yeah.
A lot of times that one game against their rival they could rally and beat that team.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, ordinarily, I think rivalry games, the fact that people play dogs in those is overrated.
Right.
It's about 50-50. But when you have a team that's, suffered, a season the way Utah did, Jeff, like you said, they had them. A lot of guys had them pretty much penciled into the Big Eight, the Big 12, Big Eight, the Big 12,
16,
the Big 12 championship game, at least, if not even further into the playoff. But that's not going to happen. But this is the kind of game that traditionally a lot of teams like that jump up and win. Now, I made the number 4 myself, so I'm not crazy about them like you.
Sure.
But I've underrated, from the beginning of the year, I underrated BYU probably as badly as I underrated. Oh, my God, Vinny, I'd say as badly as I've underrated a team in like the last 25, 30 years. I was way off on this one.
This team figured to be at the bottom of the conference.
I thought they'd be one of the worst teams in the league, or in the country, really. But like I said, if Jeff, you're playing a hunch like that, I don't think it'd be so much a number play, but you're looking for an emotional angle.
This is not a number play. There are plenty of number plays, but this is exactly what you just said. This has been a nightmare for the Utes. And look, if you can't get up for BYU when BYU's undefeated, when are you getting up again this year?
Yeah, they'll be up.
They'll be up. It's just a matter of, do they have enough offense to pull this thing off, which is a big-time question. Because with Isaac Wilson at the helm, they have not been good on offense at all this year.
Low total. What's the
40 and a half.
Yeah,
and
so
quite
it's a low
frankly,
total,
I think and again, like low total, like dog and under makes a lot of sense here. Also, favorite and under makes sense in this game to me, too. So I guess I like the under, too.
Utah's offense was good against Oklahoma State, and that's about it.
But look
again, look at what happened to Oklahoma State that
Oof.
turned around their season. But, rivalry games, they bring out a whole different dynamic in games. This one, as I mentioned, was a double toggle, right? Originally 4.5 to 4 back and forth, and now you have 3.5. So it's kind of interesting that two key numbers come into play when it comes to betting this game. Good betting game, a lot of action.
A lot of it.
I tell you what, and the action is going to be even more. Look at the time of this game, 7:15 Pacific.
Yeah.
This game is going to generate a tremendous amount of business, and it's going to have a lot of carryover that's going to impact how this number winds up.
Well, this is the get right or gravy game here, Vinny.
The G game.
Yeah.
Either you had a great day, that's terrific. You'll have an even greater day, or you know what? If it's either the gravy game or the get even worse day. So
that's what I call it, the get even or get even worse game. We got some huge games we haven't gotten to yet, like Mississippi and Georgia.
Alabama,
LSU. This, I think, is going to be the game of the day, action-wise here.
Well, Utah, BYU.
Yeah.
Look at the time.
Yeah, no, 7:50.
Well, we get a lot of people from BYU and Utah, and I'll tell you where we get a lot of them is in Mesquite.
Yeah. Well, this is geographically speaking, definitely.
Yeah, no, we do
for sure,
no doubt about it.
All right, keeping it in this region of the country, Nevada at Boise State. We'll just be quick on this game.
Yeah.
They have taken the pack in this game from 25, it got down to 23. Now the hook came back on 23.5 with Boise, who is set up very nicely to make the college football playoff at this point. They're going to be in favorite in every single one of their games down the way, and they'll be favored in the Mountain West title game, even if it's UNLV again, especially with the game up on the blue turf.
Yep. See, there's a lot of bad blood here too, and I know, like I spent 30 years of my life in Northern Nevada. And I mean, I remember being at games where Nevada and Boise was nip and tuck. And not only that, but where these two programs, and this is before probably they were both in the Big Sky or whatever they were in at the time, they were both probably identical programs as far as like their influence on the national scene. And a lot of people in Nevada, and I would agree with them, they had a chance to be Boise State. Where Boise is right now, that could have been Nevada had they done things right. And they just didn't. And Boise did. And so there's a lot of animosity, I would say, between Nevada and Boise. So they took the number in this game. My numbers, I don't think really favored Nevada in this one. No, they didn't. I came to 27. We went to 25. So that's cutting it pretty close. But I'll probably be on the favorite, if anybody, but only at 23. 24 is just a little too close.
Kind of wish it was tonight, this game.
I'm
we
with
could do
you.
a lot more business.
Yeah.
Rather have that than New Mexico and San Diego State. Sorry, Aztecs, but just not your year. Ashton Genty, one of probably 4 players with a realistic Heisman chance at this point. Genty, we'll get to Travis Hunter in a moment. Cam Ward in Miami.
Still,
and I'm going to throw Dylan Gabriel in there as well.
Okay.
Especially if Oregon goes 13-0 and wins the Big Ten. I think Gabriel is live in order to win the Heisman.
Quarterbacks always get a little edge, too, in the voting.
Yeah. If I had to vote right now, I'd still vote for Genty.
I think I would. You've been on him from the start.
Yeah, and of course, I didn't bet the 100-1 like I planned on, Chris. It's just classic, just forgetting to do things before the season.
It's like Sierra Leone. He didn't bet.
No, well, that was intentional.
Yeah.
Once I knew you guys were on Sierra Leone, I wasn't going to mush you guys.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
That
Very
was
considerate of you.
All right, let's go.
You're a man of honor.
Every once in a while, Chris. Let's go to Tempe next. Arizona State welcomes Central Florida. It's 3. There's some 2.5 in the market as well. We're away. This has been a toggler the whole way. 3.5, 3, 2.5, 3, 2.5, back to 3. Waiting on Scatabo, their star running back. We have to see if he plays. If he does, I imagine that this will probably go back to 3.5, Chris.
Jeff, we were going to eliminate this game too, and I says, hang on a second. Yeah. I got a ton of business on this game, and sometimes just numbers, and then especially Vinny's favorite word, the togglers. The togglers bring out a ton of business, especially 2.5, 3. My God. 7, 7.5s are bad too, but 2.5, 3, forget about it. So we got a ton of play on this game. What did my numbers come to? I came to 2, so no strong opinion for me. But, this is going to be a great game. As long as we stay away from the number, I'll be happy.
Great betting game, right? That's what you have to have. And sometimes, staying away from numbers is key. We had a week, Chris mentioned about October. There was a couple of weeks where numbers were falling left and right, and key numbers. And so, but listen, there's nothing you can do about it. You book the games, and then you hope to split them out, just kind of juice them out.
Yeah, I have nothing. Arizona State's been a nice story. Central Florida, much better last week. They ran Arizona
finally.
out.
Finally.
I think
that's another team we had penciled in for the Big 12 championship.
I think Arizona had more to do with that result than Central Florida personally, but that's just me. Speaking of Big 12 competitors, both of these teams in this next game are actually very much alive.
Right,
yes.
And this is pretty much an elimination game, no. Colorado goes to Lubbock to take on Texas Tech. Guys, the pendulum's kind of flipped the other way on Colorado, where last year they come out hot and they get as overrated as any team I can ever remember. And now this year, it's the opposite. They get blasted early in the year in Lincoln by Nebraska. And everyone kind of just forgot about them. It's like, oh, it's Dion and Shador. They're a joke more so than anything. They're not really a team, but they very quietly have been awesome the last month. Ever since that tight loss to Kansas State, they're 4.5-point favorites in this game against Texas Tech, who we said last week, what did I use as the word? Erratic.
Yeah, they are erratic.
Last week showed it perfectly. They go on the road and win at Ames against previously undefeated Iowa State. At 4.5, I can't do anything here. But, boy, this actually could be a pretty fun game in Lubbock here. Giovanni was hoping we would talk about this in the chat here today.
I made this game pick 'em. I mean, erratic is sometimes can be very good. Now, they can be very bad, too. But this is going to be one of my games later on when I give out plays. I thought this game, listen, and I understand – there's a lot of publicity now. Actually, it's catching up with Colorado a little bit. But I thought this number opening at 3, I thought that was okay. Even though I made a pick, I understand that there's a lot of volatility with Texas Tech. So 3 I thought was a decent number. But now we're up to 4. I see 4.5.
Yeah.
I'd like the dog here. I think this number has really just gotten a little bit too high. I see a little bit of wise guy play on the dog earlier. We got a bunch of guys back here, playing all kind of stuff, but somebody I highly respect even took 3.5 in this game. I hope he comes back and takes a little more. We could use it, but I like Texas Tech in this one. I think this number's just gone a little bit too high.
Colorado games have generated a lot of business the last couple of years. They're going to continue to do so. If you're betting Texas Tech here, I mean, you're going to get the best number, right, at 4.5, but you just hope that there's not a letdown. I don't think there'll be a letdown. I mean, they're home, again, after a very impressive win last week. And, again, they know it's an elimination game as well. So I suspect that we'll see support for the home dog here.
I have no idea what I'm getting out of Texas Tech on a weekly basis. No clue.
That's true. Yeah.
No idea. They did cover against TCU 2 weeks ago. Of course, they blew a big lead in that game that they should have won as an underdog last week. They did win as an underdog. It is very hard to win. Really, they should have won. If they win this game, it would be 3 straight. They should have won as a dog. But a 4.5 is a lot of points to be getting.
Yeah. And I would tell you, too, take a little bit on the money line if you are going to play Texas Tech, because erratic's been kind of the word of the day for them. But part of erratic is playing well at times, and they have a good chance of winning this game. Probably as good a chance of winning as they do of covering the 4.5.
I think this is usually a take I have when the game's 1.5 or 2. I'm 100% with you.
Plus 55 on the money
If
line?
Texas Tech's going to cover this, they probably are winning this game.
Yeah, I would say.
A close loss doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I mean, of course it could come.
27, 24,
of course.
Something like that.
But I think
62 on this total. No shot.
Yeah, a lot of numbers. I mean, a lot of big numbers there on that
38,
total.
35,
But I would definitely take a shot. If you're going to play this game, I would probably split my bet between the point spread and the money line.
All right, let's go to Columbia, Missouri next. Old Big 8 game now in the SEC together. Oklahoma is a 3-point road favorite in this game against Mizzou. It would be a shock if Brady Cook plays in this game. So Drew Pine, who has been very bad in his limited action so far this year, likely going for Missouri. And the number tells you that. Oklahoma, I'm not sure, should be favored on the road against anyone at this point, and can't really quibble with it with the injury to Cook. 3 in this game. I gave this out earlier on Frank's show. I think this under is great at 42.5. Both of these defenses are pretty good. Missouri's defense has only struggled against the high-end offenses this year. Oklahoma's offense is not that. And Oklahoma still has a lot of talent on that defense, even though they haven't been as good as you would have hoped this year. I don't think either team's getting a 20, so I like under 42.5 in this game as one of my favorite plays of the whole week, Chris.
Well, it does make a lot of sense, Jeff, but I got to tell you, I don't give out totals almost never. I would play the dog here.
Yeah.
I mean, Oklahoma 3 on the road. I mean, I know what was Mizzou before Cook's
Well, you
injury?
guys opened Missouri 2, which I thought was right. Hedging your bets on if Cook plays or not. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so too. I thought maybe even going to 3. Cook played, but that's an awful big swing. And, I know we're playing around like with the pick'em, so those numbers aren't quite the same swing as going like from 7 to 13 or something like that. But I would play the dog here, if anything. I just, but more of a play against Oklahoma than on a battered Missouri team.
Well, I don't know. I think we'll find money support for the home dog here at this number at 3, right? I mean, if Cook goes, which is very doubtful, he's probably not going to be able to stay in a game very long, right, Jeff? I mean, so
if Cook goes, it's going to be like it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
He made it a quarter.
Come out. They tried and he gave it a shot. And but if there's going to be support for Missouri, it's probably going to come at 3.
Yeah, you're there. I don't mind taking the 3. I mean, this game landing like 9-6 would not shock me. Like that's how little I think of both of these offenses right now, which probably means the defenses are scoring touchdowns in this game to wreak havoc on my total there. All right, keep it in the SEC. This is one of the big ones this week. Georgia on the road at Ole Miss. Elimination game for the Rebs in this game. Chris, I think the number kind of tells you something here on the fact it hasn't moved all week.
Yeah.
With Georgia 2.5 on the road, how often do you see Georgia shy of 3 in any game at this point? And it has not moved. The total's been active, but you're back to the opener of 55. But Ole Miss is very much live to win this game, especially with how Carson Beck has struggled against high-end defenses so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a lot of disappointing teams. Is there any player more disappointing than Carson Beck? He's been very mediocre. I mean, a lot of guys had him penciled in as Heisman favorite, the obvious number 1 choice coming into the NFL draft. I was watching Get Up this morning, and one of the few guys out there that I respect as far as in the media, Joe Fortenbaugh, who's a friend of mine for a long time. But Joe is legit. This is one of his plays. He's on Mississippi.
Yeah.
My numbers come to 2. And I got to tell you, when I made that and wrote it down, I said, holy cow, 2? Only 2? Is that right? And I went back. That's what it comes to. Yeah. So, I mean, would I bet this game? No, not really. But I would say this, though. Kirby Smart has had a history of winning a lot of these games, whereas Lane Kiffin is not. So I'd be careful there. But like I said, Joe Fortenbaugh, a guy that I have tremendous respect for, he's one of the very few absolute legit guys in the media, and he likes Mississippi here. And, well, like I said, I'm not going to bet something that's a half a point off my number.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's a legit game and really, really interesting game. And this is going to be the 12:30 feature game, and I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
Dynamite game, Vinny.
You know, Carson Beck's top 2 receivers from a year ago now in the NFL. One of them's playing a few miles away here at Allegiant with the Raiders, tight end. And then the wideout, McConkey's playing for the Chargers.
Take a little trip down I-15.
So that has, by the way, we used 7 on our game of the year last summer. They didn't really do a whole lot with it. Ole Miss's defense, everybody talks about Georgia's defense. If I'm not mistaken, one of, if not the top, don't they lead the country in sacks?
They're in the top 5.
Right? They're a good defensive team.
They are.
A better defensive team than we've seen out of Ole Miss. You know, we talked about how a lot of teams had to improve defensively in the offseason. SC, for the last few years, we've been talking about that with Lincoln Riley. We talked about how Colorado had to, and I think they're a little bit better than they were a year ago. Ole Miss had to as well, and they've done it. And here you have them as a real short dog. I mean, if you're gonna support Ole Miss here, then there's another money line that you want to sprinkle in as well. So
What do we have it? Plus a quarter?
Yeah. Ole Miss. So minus 45 on Georgia right now, plus a quarter on Ole Miss. Good game, great game, a lot of action. One of the more popular betting games for tomorrow.
If Ole Miss wins this game, Ole Miss is going to probably either be the last team left out of the college football playoff or just sneak in. Because their last 2 games are Florida and Mississippi State, and they're not going to have to worry about an SEC title game.
Well,
and they would then have a win over Georgia on top of it.
If they win. But if they lose,
if they lose
3 losses.
This is classic, and we're going to get this now, and it's pretty good that we're going to get some actual true big-time elimination games at the beginning of November.
Well, if they win this one, I think it'd be really hard to keep them out.
Assuming they don't blow one of those last 2?
Yeah.
100% agree with you, Chris.
Who do they have, Florida and Miss State?
Yeah. Yes. They'll be big favorites.
I'm a big favorite over Miss State, and probably a pretty big favorite over Florida, too.
Keeping in the SEC here, guys, let's go to Nashville and talk about a team that I still don't think is respected enough. As crazy as it is, Vanderbilt. And look, South Carolina, that second half last week against A&M was impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that was a great win for Shane Beamer and company. And they're I think they're going to be Clemson at the end of this month. Get that ready for the jackpot card, guys. But this was 3.5 when you opened it. Mm-hmm. You're at 6.5 now on this game.
Yeah.
Keep betting against Vandy at your own peril at this point, guys.
Especially at home.
I'm not saying they're going to win this game outright, but that is a lot of points to be getting with Vanderbilt when they have proven time in and time out this year that, especially like Vinny just said, in Nashville, they are an extraordinarily difficult out.
Well, I got to tell you, I started the year, and I was looking the other day. I started them out with a home field advantage of 0.
Yeah, and correctly so.
Yeah, probably right. I'm up to 2, and I got to tell you, even the 2 seems a little light for me. Like a lot of bookmakers, and I'm certainly guilty of this. Sometimes I'm a little bit slow to react to what's going on right now, as opposed to what the past has been. But I thought the 3 was a decent number that we opened this game, and I'm looking. I actually made South Carolina 2 in this game. Now, I think South Carolina is peaking. They're playing very well, good coach, and like a lot of well-coached teams, they got better as the year went on. Nonetheless, this number got too big, and I got to tell you, when I give my plays at the end of the game, at the end of the show, Vandy's one of my plays. This number has just gotten too big. The original number would not have been a play at all. And by the way, another thing we'd like to look at, ticket counts. So the ticket counts are on South Carolina. I don't like to bet teams with a big ticket count in their favor. And I thought they might be in their favor in Vanderbilt, but they're not. It's on South Carolina. So it's a public and some sharp guys that are on the favorite here, but I'm going to be on the dog.
Doubled this point spread. That's a huge, and this is a classic letdown spot. Again, I'm not saying they're gonna lose it, but you come off of a win again at home against a team that was on an absolute roll in Texas A&M, And now you have to go to Nashville with a team that's got a chip on their shoulder, right? Because they were so disrespected, in their minds going into the season. And here they sit with 6 wins right now. And this is a tough place to play. Another, maybe bettors are looking to, if it gets to 7, which will be an absolute grab.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to grab this, and I think they're going to grab a piece of the plus 210 money line.
Vandy, the number on your screen, and we know polls don't make prices. There you go, Vinny. No problem. But they ranked in the AP poll. They're the only AP poll ranked team that was not in the college football playoff top 25.
Who's that?
Vanderbilt. Missouri had the 24th slot instead of Vanderbilt in the CFP, which actually, in retrospect, is kind of funny. Vandy actually lost that game to Missouri because those 2 teams played now. That definitely would not be the result.
I know who the favorite would be.
Well, especially with with Pine instead of Cook. But look, Vinny, you just said it. 3 points with no major injury is a monster move. A monster move. Yeah.
Particularly this late in the season.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see if maybe it was Texas State and somebody else, 2 teams maybe we don't have all the information.
If this was September.
Yeah, in September 12th or something, But yeah, that's a big move this late in the year with 2 SEC teams.
Let's go to the Big Ten. Yes, this is another one of these great conference rivalry game. Now, Maryland goes to Eugene to take on the Ducks of Oregon here, Chris. This is a nice nature matchup, though. Terrapins and ducks. That's
really?
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, okay.
Why not? Yeah.
What's the difference between a terrapin and a turtle?
Great question. No idea.
Call Scott Van
zoologists
Scott Van Pelt. Let's get SVP on the phone.
SVP on it. They have bet the Turtles in this game, though, Chris. Yeah. After an initial move to the Ducks, 25-26, down to 23.5. And you know what? I'm kind of interested by why that has been the case in this game.
I don't know. Good question. My numbers come higher. I mean, Oregon. We. I don't know that we've always put the correct travel handicap into our numbers, and I think maybe after this year or the next year, we might have a little bit better handle on exactly what that means. But this seems like kind of a weird travel, doesn't it? You're going from all the way on the East Coast to all the way on the West Coast. But I made the number a little bit higher, but maybe somebody thinks with Oregon has that number 1 ranking that they're going to ease up a little bit, maybe save themselves for a game that may matter a little bit more down the road. I don't know what their thinking is, but I did make this number a little bit higher, but I'm not sure I'd jump all over Oregon in this one.
Yeah, I could see where they took they laid the points early. I think right as high as 26.
Yep.
I don't. It's not a shock that they're betting on Oregon in this one. Plus, it's style points too. Like, let's face it. I know the committee has them as the number 1 seed in the first unveiling, but style points mean a lot too. I think in terms of how to impress the committee.
Look, Oregon is on their way to 12-0. A Big Ten title game appearance, whether it's Ohio State a second time or Indiana or Penn State or whoever they end up seeing there. It'll be very interesting to see because they're as set as anyone to make the college football playoff. It's just a matter of will they be the 1 seed or will they be the 5 seed when
they're
going
to be a 1 or a 5.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it's going to be for the Big Ten champion at this point. Whoever wins that game, even if it happens to be Indiana, imagine that.
Be a 1?
They could. If they're 13-0 with a win at the shoe and a win against Oregon on a neutral.
Oh, they're a top 4.
I think they have to be the number 1 seed.
Yeah, the way you just
number
said
1
that,
seed?
The way you just said that, I think you might be right.
I'm not saying they would be number 1 in the power rankings. But
No. But I mean, who you're looking at? Miami, okay.
A 1-loss SEC team.
SEC, yeah.
An undefeated BYU. No, I mean, BYU's already behind them. So crazy.
I tell you, they win at Ohio State. Beat Oregon. Where they play? Lucas Stadium?
Indianapolis, Lucas Oil, Crazy. Craziness. Well, we have them right here. I mean, just what a bizarre existence right now across the board. But Indiana, against the defending national champions, Chris, are 14.5-point favorites against Michigan. Now, On the surface, like if you plopped us down 3 months ago and told us this, we'd have laughed you out of the studio. Now it's like, well, I'm a little bit surprised that this hasn't been bet even more aggressively by the public here. You guys opened 14 and there's been a toggler all week.
Yeah.
I thought 14 was fine. I think 14.5 is fine in this game. As always in these Michigan games, how the hell are they going to score in this game?
Yeah, I think the numbers have finally caught up to Indiana a little bit, though. I think I made this number 12. And I've been on Indiana quite a bit since Bud Elliott tipped us off before the season, a guy who we greatly respect. And let me just run. Somebody made a limit bet with buying a half a point on Indiana. Don't buy half points in college football. No, don't buy half points most of the time, but certainly not in college. And don't buy a winner. You might want to buy a tie just for your psychological effect. I kind of say I think I'd probably take Michigan plus the 14.5 here. Just hope that they could
Find something.
Yeah, find a defensive score or something. Maybe try to win or try to lose. 27-14, something like that.
I don't see Indiana starting slow like they did last week, right? I think, the coach. I think the coach reminds them of that, and Michigan's chance to keep it close, to cover, and certainly to win is going to be the recipe. They're going to have to be reliant on what they've been all year, right? Trying to run the ball. I'm not so sure they can run the ball against this Indiana team because they score points and their defense is pretty good. They're a very physical team.
That was 10-0 Michigan State after one last week in the East Lansing against
and
Indiana.
the final?
47-10.
There you go.
Nice 47-0 run in that game. And I will tell you, this is sometimes where you make the mistakes in in-game betting. I saw an Indiana in-game, a minus 120 money line, down 10-0. And in my head, I'm like, that seems really good, especially with how the game has gone so far, where I thought Michigan State should have been up 14-0, and they settled for a field goal in a scenario where I thought they should have went for it.
And you did what?
Did not bet it.
Oh, you did not?
Did not bet it. I did not bet Michigan State, thankfully. That was good on that. That would
have been over quick, though.
That would have been one of great job, idiot. What are we doing here? All right, let's go back to Happy Valley. This is actually a primetime game for Penn State here.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people would have hoped it was last week after, again, another loss against a high-end team for James Franklin. Now they welcome Washington, who has been abysmal away from Seattle this year. 13.5 you guys have. That's market high. It's a lot of 12.5 in the market now. You guys opened there. You went to 14. Now back to 13.5 on this game with the Nittany Lions. Welcoming the Huskies here, total 46.
I'm going to have to go take a look at that when we get back to the office because I don't want to be low on this game. Or high, on this game. I kind of like Penn State, and really you look back, Franklin had a lot of negativity, even walking off the field last week. And I got to tell you, Franklin knows the numbers, and he likes to cover. He really does. And you have to keep that in your number, or at least keep that in mind. He likes to cover these games, and if this game's sitting on 10 late in the game and he has a chance to score a touchdown to get over that 13.5 or 14 or whatever it is, probably 14 at Happy Valley, he's going to go for it. And, keep that in mind. And I think I did make this number a little bit higher, but I think, again, psychologically, coming off that loss last week, Franklin getting a lot of heat from the fans, I think if he's got a chance to put a couple extra points on the board this week, I think he's going to do it.
Bad look. Arguing with the fans, your own fans. Any fans, but, engaging them right on the field like that. But Chris is absolutely right. He knows how to pour it on, and he likes to do it. So there'll be whatever happens in this game from the betting side. I think there'll be some support. I know it's lower in a lot of places. I think there'll be some support for Penn State throughout the night and tomorrow morning.
Washington's splits outside of Husky Stadium are incredible this year. Undefeated at home at Husky Stadium. They have not won away from Husky Stadium this year. They even lost at Lumen, which is where the Seahawks play, in that Wazoo game where they should have won that game. They lost at Rutgers in that ridiculous game on the Friday night. They got clobbered in Iowa City. They got pretty well handled by Indiana with the backup quarterback. And now I'm with you. I think this is a classic. Penn State puts it on an inferior opponent game.
Yeah, I think I mentioned last week, it's an underrated home field. My kid lives in Seattle, so I know that's a rabid fan base. You don't think about that in the upper Northwest.
No.
They're kind of cool, laid back. And they support the Seahawks pretty good, too.
Yeah, well, and the Seahawks, they're great. They're great with the Major League Soccer team, too, there as well. I'm with you. All right, let's touch this game quickly because we thought preseason this was going to be, two potential playoff teams, a huge game in South Bend, Indiana. No, it's not. It's Notre Dame as a 26-point favorite in this game against one-win Florida State. And you look at the betting market here, Chris, have not been a lot of action on this game, which can you imagine Florida State and Notre Dame being a 26-point line with no action? But that's what we got here in this one.
I know. I try to write down any of the limit bets that I have here, and I don't have a 1 on this game. Nothing.
Yeah.
I got 1 on the over. That's about it. But you talked about if a couple months ago you said the Indiana-Michigan game gave that number, I'd say, dude, this kid belongs in a funny farm. Well, what would you do with this one?
Well, I would say that Notre Dame is the best team in college football by a wide margin. That would be the only way I could even think about that.
You'd start saying, what would Notre Dame be against the Carolina Panthers?
No,
Could
exactly.
They beat them?
I mean, that would be my thing. Or Florida State had horrendous injuries, not just that they were terrible, but they've had both this year.
It's mostly they're terrible.
It's mostly they're terrible.
3 touchdowns higher than the game of the year.
Yeah, well, that's not a shock.
I'll leave you with that.
All right, let's on this one. Clemson got pretty well exposed last week against Louisville. Second best team they played, and quite frankly, Louisville looked like the double-digit favorite in that game all day long, in a 12-point loss for Clemson. Also, Dabo Swinney needs a math lesson, but that's a different time for a different place for a different time.
What did he say?
He does. He didn't. He kept kicking the PAT down 13 to go stay down 12 as opposed to go for 2, make it 11, and whatever. He did it twice, but it didn't really matter. Louisville was better. Virginia Tech lost another one-score game last week. They were up huge at Syracuse, blew it outright. Pry is now, that head coach is now 1-10 in one-score games in 3 seasons.
He's the anti-Campbell.
Yeah, exactly. 6.5 in this game, 53. This line, neither of these have moved all week, Chris.
I haven't had a limit bet here either. Nothing. And it's still a pretty good game.
I think Vodtek's live, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's a good game, but I got no action on this one. Nothing.
We you look at this game and you look at the Notre Dame game. The majority of the betting handle is going to be like in between. So after the early games go, then the 12:30, right? And this one's in the 12:30 spot. Notre Dame in the 4:30 spot. It's not going to be I don't think a tremendous steady on like we talked about some of the other games. No, I think these will be spot games. Based on the time frame. Games end. Oh, this is coming up. It's on TV. Let me watch. Let me play it.
All right, now we hit the elimination game of elimination games here at the bottom of the card here. LSU hosts Alabama. 2.5 with LSU as a dog at home, moved off of 3, so they did take the 3 in this game. 58.5 the total. Look, I mean, this is this is a classic elimination game that we're going to start seeing basically every November in the SEC now, guys. LSU at home in prime time. Both of you mentioned this. There's not many bigger home field advantages than there are than this for the Bayou Bengals in this one.
Yeah, one of the biggest on my sheet. And my numbers came to 3. We were writing great business all week at the 3. And finally today they started coming in strong on LSU. So they finally pushed me down to 2.5. I was fine with the 3, and whatever I need in this game will be fine. My heart's a little bit with LSU, though. Just I'm tired of seeing Bama all the time. Well, I'm not a big Kelly fan either. So I don't know. Wherever the chips may fall, that's what I'll be rooting for.
I think there'll be two-way action on this game. I mean, it hasn't been a lot of difference between what we anticipated in the summer. It was 1, Alabama, 1.5, so it's within a point. So, but I think there'll be look. This will be one of the this will be maybe the second busiest game of the day, Chris. And again, it should be the number 1, but again, we talked about that.
Yeah.
BYU
the
BYU game because it's at 7:15. So timing wise, but this will be. One of the highest handle games today. This game will outright a couple of NFL games. We always talk about that too during the week. This is one of those games that I think will outright a couple of NFL games.
I like LSU. Home field means a lot. This Alabama team is just not your classic Bama teams. It's
Plus 120 on the money line.
Yeah,
6-5.
I would rather just take that money line price. See if we can find a dollar and a quarter. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they'll come back on Alabama late, and you might get an even better price than that on the money line. But at home field is just so good. And for Bama, Vinny, they've completed only 2 passes in the air longer than 15 yards in their last 3 games.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Struggled throwing the ball in the air. They've been having a lot of catch and run, but nothing down the field, which what made when Milroe's been on his best. That's what he's been able to do.
Well, that's how they took control of the Georgia game in the first half, right? And held on and then wound up winning it at the end.
All right, one last one to get to in college, and then we'll bring Jimmy in. Hawaii and UNLV. Usually this is the gravy game, Vinny.
Yeah.
But this game's a 6:00 Pacific start time for us here in Vegas. I don't know.
You don't usually see that with a Hawaii game.
You don't. 13 with UNLV on the road against Hawaii, who, giving Timmy Chang some credit, Hawaii's played a lot better over the last month.
Yeah. Don't underestimate the action on this game either, by the way.
I know.
Look at it. It's a little bit of a late one, and lot of business on this. Tons of business. So
13 and a half, 13, 14.
This is going to be an interesting game. And right now, it's one of the leaders in the clubhouse. Not actually, but close to biggest handle of the day. We a lot of business, and I think tomorrow is going to be the same thing. Don't forget, in this town, we also have a lot of Hawaiians.
Oh yeah,
a lot of Hawaiians.
Yeah. A lot of support. This will be and I think the total on this one is probably going to continue to go up. It's up to 50 right now, up 1 point. I think the bettors will support the over in this game.
No, I'm with you.
They'll
both.
root for it.
With you both, especially 50 in a Hawaii and UNLV's offense is electric. Ooh, probably will get hit by the time that game goes at 6. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, Jimmy Vacarro will join us on set. We'll also look at Week 10 in the National Football League, including a game in Germany. Looking at that. Not our best going over to Germany for the NFL. We'll talk about it next on Sports by the Book Football Frenzy.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu. Plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
Welcome back to Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. I'm Jeff Parles, and we got a full boat up here on the desk. Vinny Magliulo, Chris Andrews, and now to my left, the one and only Jimmy Vacarro.
Gentlemen, how you doing? I got some news for you.
I'm going to move this up.
Get your hands off my microphone. Let me pull yours. How you like that?
No, it's okay.
No, you don't like it. All right, here's a couple things that would interest everybody. First of all, a guy named Michael Gaughn We all know who he is. Well, most of us should know. He owns the place.
Yeah.
And he came back and he sat in the studio with me for a while. And you guys were doing the show. And he gave me this bit of news. You think I like this, what he told me? They're remodeling the spa.
Oh.
That's big
Whoa.
news.
Wait a
Hold
second,
the
is it going to be
presses.
closed while they remodel? Because what are you going to do for that 2
I
weeks
think he's
or
just
whatever?
going to board it off a little bit.
Okay, just you have your own
They'll leave
special.
one section.
I mean, wow. I mean, that's big news. I mean, I got the guy. First of all, he didn't want to do it. So a month ago, I sat him down. I said, listen, we're going to do this. All right, something gets serious. And I know that I'll get some great comments from all three of you. For years and years and years, what always happens in football season, especially the college, at the end of the season when you're vying a little bit for like getting a higher this or a higher that, when it was 4th and 2 from the 3-yard line, that was the favorite. They ran the ball in there to higher the score. So if anybody's looking for look, my message is like 10-1 instead of 9-2, something like that. So what I'm saying is and I think Chris and Vinny, especially Chris, because you changed these things, it's simply what we're going to see now with the tournament. I mean, you really want to get yourself higher and higher and higher because the money obviously is going to be, quite different. So I suggest, what I'll see this year is simply if it's just 4th down or whatever from whatever yard line you're the favorite, you're going to try to score the football. You're going to try to keep making the score higher and higher and higher. So that might benefit you when it comes to start to divvy up the money. So what do you guys think of that one?
Well, I'm glad that the conference championships mean so much, because that doesn't take into account the scores. Now, once you get past the conference championships, now you're looking at those other 8 teams. They're looking for seeding. I think it might mean a little something there.
Okay.
But I'm glad the conference championship. Let's cut out the ambiguity. In the NFL, you win and you're in. Nobody has a vote at the end of. Roger Goodell doesn't pick the playoff teams. You win and you're in, and a lot of that is filtered down into the college football. But after the top 4, then they're jockeying for some position.
Style points is what you're talking about, Jimmy. Yeah, I think we were just talking about for instance, the Penn State game this week too, right? When if the opportunity to get in. So I think you'll see it now, and then to Chris's point, definitely as the tournament, we'll call it, rolls on.
I think the biggest point that was just made was made by Chris. These conference championship games mean so much now that I think just getting to those games is so important that, there'll be some circumstances where the style points I think will matter, but just getting to those games.
Well, those 8 teams should be in, right? I mean, unless unless it's a third loss.
I'm not so sure about that because if you look at the standings initially, the committee has pretty well set this up where the Big 12 is definitely only getting 1. With the way that it's set up.
Yeah.
And the ACC, I think the ACC would need SMU to beat Miami in a close game in order to get both of those teams in.
If they get there with their present records.
Correct. If SMU's 11-1 and Miami's 12-0. Correct.
Well, naturally, like everything everywhere is money. So somehow if it can make a difference, you're going to try to score again. And remember, there wasn't none of this, even like a short 20, 25 years ago. Just like they played, and, okay, let's win because if we win, we go to the Rose Bowl. Now it's like if they win, they're going to pick up more money.
Rose Bowl's a playoff game.
Yeah, that's what it is. These things are playoff games. So everything that you do anymore. So, and I get questioned already because I walk around quite a bit. As I'm sure these guys get their share too. It's just like, Jimmy, what if? It's more what ifs already, and still we got a month to go. So it's going to be interesting. And how can we say how much will be bet? A lot.
It's going to be a lot.
The good thing is, the best part is that there are still, like a year ago at this time, there were 6 teams alive.
Maybe 7. Maybe
right?
7, because Alabama was 7 when they started the run.
But look at now. There's still technically 3 times that amount.
Oh,
yeah, right?
Actually,
30.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Let me pull up my list.
Do
real quick.
the mathematical.
Well, I might need to.
You might need some medical help after this exercise.
My list, real quick, going into this weekend: 2, 6, 10, 14, 15, 17, 24. I had 25 teams still alive for a college football playoff spot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who's the dark horse?
I mean, I don't know how big of a dark horse an undefeated team could be, but aren't the Hoosiers the one that no one expected here? And if they keep winning, they're going to be in. And I think there's
BYU and the
They keep winning. We just talked about they might be a number one.
They might be the number one
seed.
overall seed. As crazy as it is, BYU is interesting too. But again, I've said my piece on them. I don't think they're that good.
Who do you have out of the AAC?
So I had two alive still in the AAC. Army, if they win out,
Tulane
has a real shot, and Tulane is the other one.
I know Bear thinks Tulane is a pretty good team.
And
Our
they
good
are
friend
good.
Chris Felica.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I'll get out of your way here is just simply like you talked about the BYUs and this smaller school. The kids are getting so good, even if you don't get the top two from like whatever. I mean, guy 3, 4, and 5, not too bad either. And obviously, anybody can beat anybody anymore in this college. It's insane.
Yeah.
But the more excitement it brings, better for us guys. There's no doubt about that.
Well, Vinny, I know has mentioned this already. You look at that first weekend in the college football playoff.
Wow.
You got a game on Friday night. You got 3 semifinals with 2 NFL games on that Saturday, and then you have the full NFL slate on Sunday and the Monday night game.
Those games will be bet and
Should be fun.
just
Be
like
awesome.
NFL games, just like
And
NFL
this
playoff
is-
games.
This is going to be a monster payout.
Oh, yeah.
A monster payout.
Yes.
I can't wait till that Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, I know.
That's when
not-
everybody's going to pour
that's
in and
so-
bet this.
What is it, Chris? That's only 2 weeks away, isn't it? Something like
God.
that.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks from
Yes,
tomorrow.
sir.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
We'll
Okay,
go
I'll
for that
see you
card
3 weeks from tomorrow.
It sounds good.
Alex already has half the field.
Yeah, I know. Well, and Frank will probably find a way to go 14 out of 15 again, right?
I told Chris to put Ken Trafford in here, but he wouldn't do it.
No, I wouldn't do it.
Jimmy
That's
Vacarro,
the
everybody.
game of the day.
The one and only.
We'll have a prop card for that.
Well, let's go to this week in the NFL, and I should have asked Jimmy his thoughts on Germany before he left, but it's okay. We're not sending our best over to Munich this week, guys. The Carolina Panthers hosting as the de facto home team the New York Giants. God, what a horrible game. Hopefully the Germans who are watching the NFL for the first time don't realize this is normal.
Yeah.
Even though, you know what? Knowing it, they're probably going to produce some absurd game between these two teams.
Yeah, 38-35 or something.
Yeah, and a total of 40.5 on this game.
Fly over.
Giants are 6.5. This open 5. I'll just say this real quick. We've talked about Daniel Jones. He's much better away from MetLife Stadium than he is at home. Bryce Young, here's a Bryce Young stat for you guys. Before Bryce Young regained the starting job 2 weeks ago, his previous 12 games, he only had 3 touchdown passes. He has 3 touchdown passes the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
So there has been a little, again, I'm not saying Bryce Young's going to be good or he's good yet, but he's definitely looks more competent since going to the bench for about a month plus. Guys, I don't know how the Giants could be almost a touchdown against anyone. That's my whole thing. And it kind of goes to what you said last week when you took Carolina. And Carolina, by the way, won outright as a 7-point underdog. This would only be a take of the dog in this game. I know it's hard to figure out these international games, especially when it's team not Jacksonville involved. But this feels like a take of the dog because the Giants being this big of a favorite seems nuts.
Yeah, but
yes.
Daniel Jones away from home.
Yeah.
This to me, and I got to tell you, I made the number 7.
Okay.
So,
Not far off.
No, I think this is the kind of team where Daniel Jones could probably do well. And let's face it, he's a terrific athlete. He's not the greatest quarterback,
Right.
but he may be able to put some things together against this team. I got to tell you, if I was out betting for real, I would not touch this game with a 10-foot pole. I would, I don't know how they're going to react in Germany. They eating Wiener Schnitzel all week. I have no idea. But I did make this a little bit higher, just thinking this is the kind of game I would expect Daniel Jones to play well. But Carolina has played a little better the last couple of weeks. Boy, can you lay 7? Even though I made it 7, I think I'd probably take before I lay. But I think Daniel Jones is going to play well in this one. That's
The
my
bettors
opinion.
have spoken. This game opened 5. Yeah. So it's not like it, we moved on air. It's So they laid the 5 and they laid everything up to 6.5. And they're probably still going to and believe it or not, Giants and teasers.
It is a teaser position for sure.
Yeah, there's not that many this week, man.
FYI, right?
You know?
There it is.
Yeah.
So that's how the number got
here. Be a lot of steins of Hefeweizen this week over there.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about it, but it
sounds pretty good, honestly, right now. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. But 6.5 on this
Stein
one.
of Hefeweizen would go real good. Right? What's the crude? Do we have any spare hands?
Anybody got a bratwurst on them? Come on.
Oh, we can go get a hot dog right
That's
there.
Not bad.
Go get the Americanized version of it. All right, let's go to later in Sunday. By the way, that's the good old 6:30 Pacific kick for all of us out here on the West Coast. So
if you're in Hawaii,
it's early, Chris.
3:30.
Is it a 3 or 2 hour difference from here? I don't know.
I think it's 3.
3.
Right. Yeah.
So
right.
3:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one of those where you just stay in bed and don't wake up, Chris.
Better be dedicated. Okay. I'm sure there's a lot of dedicated Panther fans in Honolulu.
By the way, there apparently were a ton of Panther fans in Munich this week. I saw that on social media all week. Why they landed on the Panthers, who the hell knows?
They probably made, I don't know. Who knows?
Whatever. Still later in Sunday, Joe Flacco and the Colts will host Buffalo here. I think I know it was only one game, but I feel pretty well vindicated about what I said last week about Indianapolis, where they were awful on offense last week against the Vikings in front of everyone on Sunday Night Football. Their only touchdown was a weird defensive touchdown that probably shouldn't have held up because it was roughing the passer on Darnold, and they missed that. Now, for Indy, again, there's only so much you can do. Michael Pittman's not playing this week, so you're without your number one receiver again. Jonathan Taylor did look healthy, which is a good sign, but they're 4-point underdogs against the Bills, who, I'm a little bit surprised that game was as close as it was a week ago, but I guess in retrospect, it makes sense. Miami fighting for their season. Tua has played well in his first 2 games back. The defense has failed him. Bills get a monster kick from Tyler Bass to win the game on a 61-yard field goal. Chris, 4.5 to 4 on this game, and the totals had a wild ride, but it's only a point down from where you open now at 46.5.
I like the favorite here a little bit. I tend to agree with you. I mean, I made this number 6. You hate to go too much week to week, but I think both teams showed what they really were. Now, Buffalo is going to win a lot of close games, but they're going to win them. And 4, that's a little bit high. Obviously, you'd feel a lot better if it was 3, but I still think this is the right side. And I think the Colts did kind of get exposed. And we're going to get to another team in a minute, in a couple minutes about them that may have been exposed a little bit. But I think right now the Colts probably not that good, played a little bit over their head. Do like Steichen as a coach. Flacco came in a lot of times that first game off the bench. Guys will play fairly well. But I just have to think Buffalo's the right side in this game.
There'll be more support for the Bills even on the road here. I mean, that's the Colts last game that's their first game of the year that wasn't a 1-score game. Right?
It was a 1-score game.
I mean, it was a one.
That's right.
That's right. They did go. Yeah, it did land 8 technically. So, the touchdown and the 2-point conversion. But you know what? They'll be. But the 4.5, the take on the 4.5 was professional. So, I mean, they'll probably go back and forth.
Again, I just think Indy this was a very, very silly move for a potential short-term game that, quite frankly, it looks like it might not even pan out at this rate, because we mentioned it, starting with that game against Houston that they lost, which sent Richardson to the bench. They had the Minnesota game, which Vikings are one of the better teams in the NFL. Buffalo, one of the better teams in the NFL. At the Jets, who are talented, but as we know, a poorly coached team. But that game's in New York. And the Lions, who are arguably the team in the NFL right now. This is an insane 5-game stretch for Indy any way you slice it. And I think it's realistic to get out of this at 4-8 and see you later at this point for your season, if that's the case.
Let me take the other side of that.
Please.
If you're a player, now I understand from a management point of view, I would agree with you. Play Richardson.
Sure.
Because I've said it many times. No player that I could ever remember no quarterback that I could ever remember came into the NFL with less experience than Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a surprise in some ways, and in some ways it's not. But if you're a defensive lineman, you're an offensive lineman, you're the 53rd man on that roster. You want to go out, you got to try to win.
Fighting for your job.
You're fighting for your job every week, and you're saying, boy, this, Flacco gives us a better chance of winning. And that's the other side of it. We look at it, guys like us tend to look at big picture.
Sure.
There's little picture too. And I'm thinking about that guy who's, probably minimum veteran salary or whatever. And, he's out there singing for his supper, and he knows, if he misses a block, he might be cut the next day. So I'm trying to think of that guy. Thinks that maybe Flacco gives him a better chance of winning.
So the one thing that I will say with this whole thing, and I forgot to mention it last week, if Richardson doesn't say what he said after the game, where I pulled myself out because I was tired.
Yeah.
If he just says, "Oh, there was something didn't feel right," or whatever it may be, or whatever, I still think he's the starter.
I think you're right.
Probably.
He showed a lack of maturity
right.
with
that remark.
Yeah.
Just look, it's one thing. So any other position can tap out for a play.
Yeah.
When you're the quarterback, you can't tap out regardless of the situation unless if you're hurt.
And I would tell you this, and I don't care how tired you are, you go in the huddle and whatever the coach calls, you go up to the line of scrimmage and call a run play.
Exactly.
You
Get
know
the
what
ball
I
to
mean?
Taylor
You're
or whatever.
audible.
Yes, exactly.
Man, I'm tired. I can't drop back. I can't do a 7-step drop. I'm handing the ball to Taylor.
Yeah,
There's
100%.
physical experience and game experience, and there's maturity experience.
Yeah, 100% right. Well, now we get an interesting one with maturity experience in this next game. Minnesota goes to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has not been officially ruled out, but based off everything that's been said this week,
he's out.
We're not seeing him this week.
Yeah, he's out.
And we might not see him for a while at that as well.
I don't know about that, but he's out.
Yeah, he's definitely not playing. So, hello, Mac Jones.
He's back.
He's back.
Mac is
calls
back.
him mac and cheese.
So, I'll just say this. And you guys can tell me if I'm wrong on this. This is not the only game I feel this way this week about what I'm about to say. I think the move's too big from quarterback A to quarterback B here. And what we saw out of what we've seen out of Trevor Lawrence this year, I think the coaching staff is just, and I never thought he was generational like people thought he was. I never thought that. But I always thought he had the potential to be a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what this coaching staff has done to him is just ridiculous. They've totally ruined him. And now you have a scenario here where Jones comes in, where he's playing for his NFL career at this point.
I mean, he was a number one choice, not overall, but what I mean.
But he's playing for his career now. And if he doesn't play well, he might not get other opportunities as a backup in this league. And here you are. This game opened 4. Got all the way to 7, 6.5.
I know.
I don't think this is 2.5 points between these guys. I think this is more like a 1-point move between Lawrence and Mac Jones at this point.
We're going to hit this theme a little bit later with another more famous injury.
Yeah.
But a lot of times that first game after the injury, the team really rallies. So, Mac Jones, he was a first-round draft choice. He definitely has some level of talent. Now, how much, I don't know. But I'm going to say this on the other side. I think Minnesota has peaked. I don't think they're that good anymore. I mean, I think they're on a slight downtrend. Now, does that mean they're going to bottom out and go, what do they got, like 5 wins right now? I'm not saying they're going to be 5-12. But I think right now we've seen the best that Minnesota has to show.
6-2 on the Vikings.
They're 6-2. I don't think they're going to be 6-11. But I think they are going to struggle for a little bit right now. Whether they could straighten the ship out, I'm not sure. But right now, I think they're on a downward swing. And I think I'm with you, Jeff. I think this adjustment was way too much. I don't know about 1 point. I think, situationally, maybe 1 point. Because like I said, the first game after the injury, team will kind of rally. But this is, I like Jacksonville quite a bit here. I think it's a play.
If you can get 7, it's a play. I mean, that's a take on the number, and that's when it got there. Yeah. So the thing about it is the Jags, I know that they want to rally, but don't forget, they've been in trade mode since before last week, right? We had the trade deadline earlier this week, but they moved a few guys before it got to the last 48 hours. So the players know that. Again, guys are still fighting for their jobs and things like that, but the public is going to be – this is a game where the public is going to be on the Vikings and professionals are going to take every 7 they can get.
There's 1-7 remaining. It's basically 6.5 juiced favorite chops that do the juice. Obviously, you guys don't do that here. So if you like Minnesota, this is actually the best you're doing right now, which based off of what we're saying, we're not advocating for that.
Right. No,
It's not going back to the opener or near it.
All right, let's go to the next game on the card. And I honestly am fascinated by this game in D.C. this week. The Steelers go to the Commanders. Both of these teams have been overachievers this year. Pittsburgh 6-2, Washington 7-2. But I'll just throw this out there here with Washington. Let's look at who Washington has played so far this year. Week 1, they get annihilated in Daniel's first career start by Tampa. They've beaten the Giants twice. They beat Cincinnati, who has no defense. They beat Arizona, who at the time had no defense. They beat Cleveland, who's among the worst in the NFL. They lost to Baltimore. That was arguably their best showing against a real team. They only lost that game by a touchdown. They beat Carolina. They needed a miracle to beat the Bears. Mm-hmm. This team's good. I think Daniels is legit. But they haven't – how many good defenses did I just say in that mix? 1, 2?
Yeah.
Chicago's the best defense they've faced so far.
Baltimore's defense is terrible. Cincy's is terrible.
Yeah. This is a different type of defense that Jaden Daniels is going to have to face in this game. And not only that, they're as healthy as they've been all year, and they're fresh with the bye week.
Coming off 2 weeks. Arguably, Chicago was the best defense he faced.
I think it is the best defense
and he needed a miracle to beat the play of the year to beat him. I'm with you. I made this game pick 'em.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, there's plenty of threes in the market. I like Pittsburgh quite a bit in this game. You look at Tomlin's records against rookie quarterbacks, and really right now, the Steelers are kind of finding their stride. How far they go with Wilson at quarterback, I don't know. But what's the Williams? Is that the receiver?
Mike Williams, who they just played, yes.
From the Jets.
I'm reading a lot. I'd like to read that DK Pittsburgh Sports. Seems like he's fitting in fairly well right now.
He's a good fit for what they need.
He's what they needed. Exactly right. So right now, I think the Steelers are maybe a tad underrated. And Daniels, I'm listening to guys saying he should be the MVP. Let's slow down.
Should win their offensive rookie of the year unanimously, but not that. Yeah.
Not MVP. I mean, let's not put him in Hall of Fame yet. I mean, let's just slow down a little bit. Yeah. But I think Pittsburgh's the right side. Right? I'm not going to give this out as one of my plays, but believe me, if I was out there betting, I'd be all over Pittsburgh +3.
+3 and probably plus $1.30 on the money line.
This is a definite money line. Well,
there you go.
This guy, you know what? Just look at Tomlin as a dog, too. I mean, Tomlin's as good of a coach as there's ever been as an underdog.
I changed my mind. I am putting this out as one of my plays.
You go.
No problem at all.
There you go.
There we go.
What else can I –
on the desk action, Vinny.
But, Commanders did pick up Lattimore, too. So both teams active at the trade deadline. We don't know if
he's going to be able to play
But I don't know if he's going to play this week.
Yeah.
But that said, look, in first place in the division, right, really in the driver's seat. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, it's them and the Eagles, not the Eagles and the Cowboys. So, but a good game. But I definitely see there's going to be support for the Steelers in this game, particularly at +3.
By the way, Washington plays at Philadelphia on Thursday night next week. So we got back-to-back really good Thursday night matchups on paper.
Who's Pittsburgh playing next week?
Steelers.
Ravens?
I think it's Baltimore.
Is it Baltimore next week?
It's Ravens.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well.
So both teams
kind of in a a weird look-ahead potential.
I don't think anybody's looking ahead.
I don't think anybody's looking ahead here.
Not in the NFL,
But
not this.
The thing about the Steelers next game, right? You got the Ravens with an extra half week. There's always that benefit. Everybody thinks that the players, the more I listen to NFL players, they don't complain about the Thursday night games anymore because they know they've got almost like a semi-bye on the backside. Yeah. So advantage Ravens there probably, although that's going to be the best defense that the Ravens have seen for sure.
Well, now for something a little bit different, guys. Let's go to the Deep South. The Saints, who fired Dennis Allen this week on 7 straight losses, 2-7. We mentioned it earlier in the week where Derek Carr and David Carr have the most greatest stat of all time.
Do you have time to repeat that stat?
I'll pull it up, Chris. Okay, cover me here real quick.
Yeah, let me cover you. Well, this is definitely going to be one of my plays. Atlanta. I mean, New Orleans, they stink. I'm sorry, they're just terrible. And Atlanta's pretty good. So we're asking them to cover, over the 3. It's going to 3.5. But I mean, obviously, look for a 3. But I think Atlanta's the right side here. There's definitely going to be one of my plays. I think we're just, okay, they changed coaches. It's not like baseball. Baseball, they changed the manager. The team always goes out and wins that next game. Not so much in football. I really like Atlanta in this game. I think they should be a heavy favorite in this game, and they're not nearly enough.
Yeah, so Darren Rizzi's the interim Bergen County, New Jersey's own, the special teams coordinator. The stat that Chris was asking for from Josh Double.
This is amazing.
Josh Dubow of the AP. Most losses as a starting quarterback through X. We're going to start in 4 seasons. It's David Carr at 43. 5 seasons, David Carr again, 53. 6 seasons, David Carr again, 56. 7, Derek Carr, 63. 8 seasons, Derek Carr, 70. 9 seasons, Derek Carr, 79. 10, Derek Carr, 87. 11, Archie Manning and Derek Carr at 91. So Derek Carr will more likely than not exceed this in the very near future, potentially less than 48 hours.
So what are you saying? He's going to get a new birth certificate?
I mean, boy.
The thing is, too, I would trade bankrolls with any guy you just mentioned.
100%,
There you go.
Chris.
There you go. I mean, toggling back and forth between 3 and 3.5 probably will continue. Although
You probably
I
hit
think
4 by the time we get to
over
it.
the weekend, during the course of tonight and tomorrow, much more likely to go higher than come back down.
Yeah,
More support for the Falcons.
look, I'm looking for a reason to bet the team that just fired the coach, but I just can't do it. I mean, New Orleans is so lost at this point, and there's no quick fix because they're in cap hell. So this is going to be a while where they're not good down there.
And Lattimore's gone.
Let me give one more shout out. Chad Millman was on before the season. Was he on your show?
He was with Alex and Kenny.
He was with Alex Kenny. He said, boy, he talked about the Saints, just how horrible they were, coaching, quarterback, everything about them. Then, of course, they had those first 2 weeks. They looked like the best team in the NFL.
Scored, 35 points?
Something like that.
Yeah, they said they were the 3rd most amount of points through 2 games in NFL history.
In history.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, boy, I really like Chad, but God dang, he really missed the boat here. He's going to make a fool out of himself. 6 weeks later, Chad, I never mentioned it, but I apologize for even thinking about it. I hope you're listening right now, Chad, because he is a friend of mine. I like him. But, boy, I thought he was dead wrong, and it proved to be dead right.
Well, let's go to something a little bit higher end than the New Orleans Saints. The undefeated Kansas City Chiefs, the only one left. Boy, they were fortunate to get out of there with a win. The coin toss happened. Baker Mayfield looked disheveled as it happened, and I can't really blame him as Kansas City went right down the field, won the game in overtime to keep their undefeated season alive.
His reaction should be in the Hall of Fame.
He's 100% right, though.
He knew they weren't going to kick a field goal.
No,
we're not going for a field goal.
He knew Tampa was screwed.
Yeah, he knew.
Chiefs are 8-0. The Broncos are a surprise 5-4, but we're kind of figuring out who the Broncos are. They're a team that's going to be more than capable of beating lower-end teams, but when the competition ratchets up, they're going to look bad. And they looked awful last week against the Ravens. Couldn't stop Baltimore. They only had 10 points against that bad defense. Now they go to Arrowhead, where Denver has not won at Arrowhead in a decade now, by the way, which is crazy in its own right because that rivalry was reversed for a long time. Mm-hmm. And now it's 8, down from 9 in this game, total 41.5. I would be betting a Denver team total under in this game. I don't know how the hell they're going to score against that defense, especially when that Kansas City defense probably had their worst game of the season last week against Tampa Bay.
I said it earlier in the week. I don't know if I was with you or with Frank or whatever, but Kansas City, their home field is a little overrated because they win everywhere. Not just they're tough. Yeah, they're tough to beat at Arrowhead. They're no picnic to beat anywhere. But this game, I mean, a little high. And by the way, Denver is very good against bad teams, not so good in the Baltimore game. I think I gave out Baltimore last week.
Yeah, that was easy for you.
Yeah, so I mean, not too many favorites. I'm not sure I'd lay the 9 here, but I got to tell you, this would be a teaser game.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could bet a 6-point teaser and get it down to 2. And there's a lot of other ways you could go. I mean, the Chargers might be a good teaser game. I'm not sure what else. You might want to even look at some of the others, maybe some dogs to tease up. Steelers might be a good teaser game to tease them up to 9. But this would be a very good teaser game. And Jeff gave you the team total under. I can tell you, Denver's not walking out of here with a win.
No.
They are not walking out of Arrowhead with a win. I don't know if KC covers the 9, but they are not going to lose this game. This would be a terrific teaser game.
Jeff, if you're looking for the Broncos under, try to find 17. We're at 16.5.
Yeah,
Is that where we're at, Vinny?
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to lay some juice on 17. Now, granted, I know it's a key number.
But no,
I don't think they're getting to 17. So 16 and a half is okay with me.
The point is to shop and look for it in all aspects of the game, right? In all aspects. When I say the game, the betting game. So, but yeah, I mean they're taking the points here right now. I mean they took 9, but they did go to 9.5. I think earlier in the week, Chris.
Might have,
very quickly. But this is the Chiefs. Interesting, a trend in this year and last year. Chris and I, we talked about this a few times. They're betting against the Chiefs because the number may be inflated in perception-wise, and the public is in love with the Chiefs. But we need the Chiefs almost every week.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's not a bad spot for you guys to be.
It's worse.
We've been in worse spots.
We've been in worse positions, but it's kind of ironic, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Chiefs still undefeated. Schedule's there to keep running through. By the way, they play Buffalo next week, so that will be dynamite game.
Getting things to go there, but they create their breaks, and their defense, like last year, defense is solid.
All right, let's go to Tampa next, guys. Christian McCaffrey and the San Francisco 49ers. The first time I can say that this year, McCaffrey is going to play.
Yeah.
The Bucs are still battered.
Yeah.
And I think this is – I don't love laying big favorites on the road. Not one bit. And there was 6 earlier in the week. Now it's 6.5 with the McCaffrey news. But Tampa off a short week after really getting beat up in Kansas City against the high-end defense where you had to get the game at home. Yes, San Francisco has to fly across the country, but the Niners are off a bye. They're the healthiest. They're going to probably be the rest of the season right now. I just don't know how Tampa stays in this game unless Brock Purdy's throwing interceptions, which with McCaffrey back, I just don't see happening here, Chris.
Yeah, without McCaffrey, I made it 4. With him, what's your adjustment? I mean, is he worth 2 points?
I think he's worth 1.
I got to tell you, there's not many running backs that are worth that much, but I think McCaffrey's right up there. So I can't argue with the 6.5. Then you get into situational aspect of it, Jeff, where, you talked about Tampa has been able to hang in there. They hang in there. But you know what? You keep hanging. Eventually, you just can't hang in.
You're going to drop it.
You're going to drop. And I think they might be due for a drop. Boy, they've been tough. And I've always kind of rooted for Baker Mayfield. Yeah. I think he's just a tough kid. And he gets the most out of his own talent and out of the players around them. But this might be a little bit too tall of a task. I wouldn't lay it, but I think the number's dead on. And I'd be very careful betting the dog in this game.
I think pros are waiting for 7, and it may get there. Public may drive it there. Definitely last year we'll have to see how. I think he's going to have a positive impact. But McCaffrey, the last couple of years, probably the most impactful player to the number besides a quarterback, outside of the quarterback position. There's a few guys now this year. Barkley's another one that comes to mind for Philly. That's impactful. But I have to tell you that the perception's reality to a lot of folks in the betting world, and that's why this number's gone up, and I think it'll continue to go up. Anybody looking to bet the Bucs is looking for 7. May get there.
Yeah, very well may get there by the time this game kicks on Sunday morning out here in Vegas. All right, let's go to Chicago. The Bears, who are undefeated at home, are back home against the New England Patriots. And I'll just say this. The Patriots are not a good football team. That's obvious. But I've liked what I've seen from Drake May so far.
I agree, yeah.
I mean, he's working with nothing.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, Gerard Mayo not going for 2 at the end of that game last week was beyond insane.
What was that? I forget that.
No time on the clock, 17-16. May throws that ridiculous touchdown where he held the ball for 20 seconds and found Stevenson, and then he kicked the PAT.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
right.
You knew. I thought that would be the same. Like last night, you knew that the Bengals were going to go for two.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, from the kickoff, right?
Yes.
If they get in,
you're going for two. You're trying to win the game right there.
Like, what do you?
It's horrible. It was horrible stuff from Mayo. They end up, of course, losing the game by a field goal in overtime. But look, Chicago, there is a pretty significant home road split for the Bears, and it's been going on the entire Eberflus tenure. Ryan, when's the last time they won on the road on a Sunday?
December 26, 2021.
That's 12/26/21.
On a Sunday?
On a Sunday on the road. Yes, their 3 road wins have been on Monday or Thursday over the last 3 seasons. Thankfully for them, they're at home in this game. I will say, though, I'm not sure they should be this big of a favorite. I wouldn't be shocked if New England plays this game tight. I also wouldn't be shocked if the Bears win this game 31-10. So no play for me here.
Yeah, my numbers actually come higher.
Yeah.
Definitely we talk about Caleb Williams. He's regressing. I mean, he had 2 bad games. I mean, let's not go overboard on this regression stuff. I mean, come on. He's had 2 bad games. I mean, he is a rookie. I hate to tell you, go look at Terry Bradshaw's rookie stats. They're almost identical to Ryan Leaf, who wound up out of the league after 2 years. I'm not saying much about Caleb Williams. I happen to think the kid's going to be pretty good myself. I really do. But let's not go crazy about this regression stuff after 2 weeks. Kind of like the Bears in this spot. Hard to lay points with this Bears team, though. Really, what's the total? What are we looking at?
38.5.
I mean, that's hard to lay points with a total of 38.5. But I think gun to my head, I'd probably lay it if anything.
I think the public comes in on the Bears. Something's up with this Bears team, though. And again, Ryan, I know you're
poorly coached team, Vinny.
Well, but you've got players not even finishing plays and things. Now, I mean, I think emotionally they suffered last week, and credit the Cardinals last week. But after the loss in Washington, but again, look what happened at the end of that game, and the circumstances surrounding that Hail Mary. And of course, there's got to be luck involved, but was poor coverage. All right, you finished the game with 3 timeouts. I think that there's some, call it morale, call it emotional. There's some disconnect in that clubhouse, in my opinion. So again, I watch players. You watch end of plays where guys are not finishing routes, guys are walking off the field before the whistle, things like that. Little things. Something's amiss there. But all that said, public support will probably come in on the Bears as we get further into the weekend.
This also probably be a teaser leg by the time this is all said and done as well.
Yeah.
Potentially on Chicago. I will also say something that I know I'll get disagreed with probably by a few people in this studio right now. That run at the end of the half that the Bears allowed for a touchdown, that 55-yard touchdown run on a give-up run by Arizona, I would argue that's almost worse than the Hail Mary. Just because you're giving up. The Hail Mary play was a fluky play where Stevenson was an idiot beforehand.
Right?
But that run at the end of the half, there was no fluke that DiMercato scored at the end of the half on that. It's not good. Not good all the way around. And again,
somebody revive Ryan.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
Back there. Sorry.
He's staring at the screen.
Well, I leaked his presidential ballot.
Yes, fire Eberflus.
Yeah, on the right and other.
Yeah. All right, let's go to LA next. Chargers 7.5-point favorites against the Titans. Hey, guess who's back this week for Tennessee? Will Levis is starting again.
The number went up, I think.
It was at 7. Now it's 7.5.
I even saw an 8 show up after he was announced that he's going to be the starter.
Yeah, I this is again another one. Big line, low total, 39, 7.5. The Chargers. I don't know how good the Chargers are, but Jim Harbaugh just finds ways to get his team to win football games. And Justin Herbert's been great the last month. He's thrown for over 300 yards in the last 3 games, which is something Herbert has not done in over 2 years. So, look, when this is all said and done, the Chargers are probably going to be in the playoffs. And playoff teams should be able to handle bad teams in their own building. Not saying I want to lay 7.5, but this is a pretty good teaser leg again. Push this thing down to a 1.5. I don't see the Chargers losing this game.
This would be my teaser. I would bet Kansas City
and the
Chargers. That would be my teaser. Because I made this number a lot higher, but it's hard to lay points. I mean, I don't like laying big points in the NFL, especially look at the total, 39. I mean, it's hard to lay points like that. I do think the Chargers are the right side. I'm not sure how much wood you want to lay, though. That makes it tough. But, I mean, I'd either be – and I think right now if you bet a 6.5-point teaser, works out a little bit better than betting the money line. What's it, 360 there on the money line?
Yeah.
I think you could do better betting a teaser here. So that's why – because I think you can get away with a 6-point teaser. And here at South Point, you can lay a quarter. I know it's one of the better prices in town, maybe the best. But a 6-point teaser with the Chiefs and the Chargers, I think you get there.
$1.40, right?
Yeah.
$1.40 for I think for
6.5.
I think for 6 you could lay $1.25.
No,
I think I would do that.
No, a quarter.
A quarter for
50.
6.
Haven't raised them in five
No.
years or more. No, I mean, look, this they buy into Harbaugh. This is a team exact opposite of what I'm talking about with the Bears. I pay attention to that. I mean, this pay close attention to teams that are in sync in the clubhouse compared to those that are not. This one's in sync. They're buying into he's first year, but having a good first year, solid, consistent. Can run the ball too.
Guys, Jim Harbaugh wins. It's as simple as that,
Yep.
which made it kind of even crazier that Michigan was considering getting rid of him after 2020. And then what did he do? He won a title a few years later.
Oh, he rubs people the wrong way. San
He's a
Francisco
jerk.
got
There's
rid
no
of him
arguing
too,
that,
yeah.
Chris.
By the way, I know a guy that knows John Harbaugh, and he says John's a bigger jerk.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
stick that in your back pocket too.
No, who has it better than us? Nobody. Apparently so there, Chris. All right, let's go to the game that I have been most intrigued by from a betting perspective this week. I'll save my thoughts for after you guys go first on this one. Dallas hosts Philly. It's Cooper Rush. It sounds like Dak Prescott might be lost for the year at this rate. He's going on IR. And why would you push him back with that big contract if you're out of it? Chris, you opened 6.5, got as high as 7.5, now 7 with Philadelphia on the road in this one with a total of 43.
Well, I got to tell you, you're replacing Dak Prescott. He's not been good this year.
No,
he really is not. And Cooper Rush, I know his record's like 5-1 when he's been the starter. A lot of that was due to the defense. I understand that. But you are getting Michael Parsons back this week for Dallas.
Yep.
I like the dog, and this is going to be one of my plays. I mean, obviously you want to go out there and get 7.
Well, there's 7.5 too.
Yeah, there's 7.5. So just make sure you're not under that. But I think my numbers with the injury came to 5. 5 to 7 in a NFL game is a mountain. So and then like you're saying, Jeff, there's 7.5s out there. I like the dog here, and I think I got a great chance to win outright. And by the way, the one wild card is Sirianni doing something stupid for the Eagles. And I'm sorry. I mean, I hate to just knock individual guys, but he has a record of doing this. I mean, this is 2 years in a row.
100%.
And I know he's won a Super Bowl and all that, but then you look back and say, or I think he was in the Super Bowl.
He didn't win it yet.
Yeah, he was in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But, you look back and say, sometimes you just scratch your head, like, what the hell is this guy doing? And, listen, I know people knock McCarthy. Deep down, I think he's a pretty decent coach. And I think these guys are really going to play hard for him. And I think they're going to go out there, and maybe Dak Prescott wasn't the most popular guy in the locker room, and maybe they want to prove a little something here. But this is one of my plays. I like the Cowboys quite a bit here.
How come Mike Tomlin doesn't yell at the fans? What's the story with these Pennsylvania coaches? They just scream at their own fans, buddy. No, but to your point, you just don't know that, Chris. And talk about guys fighting for their jobs and things like that. This is a big number, especially if you can grab 7.5. Rush is more than capable, and if they can get Parsons, if they can get some some health back on defense to try to salvage the season. Eagles, they're one of the NFC favorites, right up there with,
Sure.
When the Niners are healthy, but certainly Detroit. You've got the Packers if they can cut back on the turnovers, particularly the interceptions and things, but. This is about the number and about when you can get 7.5 at home in a rivalry game like this. I think that's what pros are wanting. And if you're going to tease a dog this week, this is the one you're going to tease.
This might be a double teaser game. I'll just throw that out there.
Could be.
I am 100% with Chris Andrews on this game. did this exact same thing with Dallas when Dak got hurt 2 years ago. The exact same thing where Dak gets hurt week 1 against Tampa, whatever he did to his thumb. Bengals come waltzing in off a loss in week 1 because the Bengals, of course, never win week 1 and are north of a touchdown against Cooper Rush, and Dallas wins the game outright.
Outright, yeah.
I'm not saying Dallas is going to win the game outright, but you said it, Chris. Dak Prescott's been a below-average starter so far this year. And I know you guys opened a number. The number was opened after we knew Dak wasn't going to play, and you opened 6.5. But if you look at books that had this number up before Dak's injury, it was 2.5.
2.5.
It was 3.
Yeah.
We've done this already. It's not 4.5 points from Dak Prescott to Cooper Rush.
No.
It's 2. It's at most 2.5. This is, look, could Philly win the game by 3 touchdowns? Of course. Because Dallas is having a season from hell and they could just give up. Absolutely in play. But you get Micah Parsons back. Cooper Rush actually looked pretty good when he came in relief last week.
He's not bad.
Mike McCarthy can run run the offense he actually wants without getting really pushed back from Prescott potentially. This is a lot of points to be getting in this rivalry game. Find the 7.5. Go bet
At home.
At home, yes. Not a huge home field advantage anymore, but
no, but it's something.
It's still a little bit. And also for Jerry Jones, we got to get Jerry Jones out of there. You can't be trading a 4th-round pick for the
It's not gonna happen.
For the 10th best receiver that was traded into that run. Vinny
Not gonna happen,
is 100% correct on that as well. He ain't going anywhere until he's in the grave at this rate. All right, now for a game that, it's funny, there's only 3 games in that 1 o'clock Pacific window. I think this is clearly the best game of the bunch because the Jets go to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, who all of a sudden are this legitimate playoff caliber.
The first
team.
place Cardinals?
First place. No one expected this. Odds were longer than 10-1 to win the division going into the year. Chris, Vinny, I think the markets bet this game incorrectly here. I thought your opening number was right. I thought Arizona should have been a small favorite. I'm not so sure that I'm not getting why the Jets are getting bet here. I think there's a bad matchup for the Jets where Arizona runs the ball well. The Jets can't stop the run. Kyler Murray, able to use his legs. Jets have struggled with running quarterbacks in the past. Jet offense might actually be able to move the ball in Arizona, but there's a little bit of the same DNA that Minnesota's defense has, where they confuse the hell out of you. And Rodgers was awful against the Vikings this year. I think the wrong team is currently favored. I like your original number better. I like the Cardinals outright in this game.
That's exactly what I had made it. 1.5 Cardinals. I opened at 1.5. I thought that was a fine number.
Yeah.
I was surprised they came in on the Jets, and they've come in on them pretty strong.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Once again, they're giving me the Cardinals. I'm more than happy to take them. That's fine with me.
Money line Cardinals if you like them.
100%.
You like them with the points. You're going to like them at plus 105. Maybe you get plus a dime.
I think you're going to get plus a dime.
I don't know. The
Jets
Jets after they beat.
We'll get the Texans in a second.
But they got to the quarterback in that game for the first time. But it wasn't like the rest of their game was outstanding. I mean, I give them credit. They were home. They got a little extra time to prepare for this one too, right? So maybe that's got something to do with the interest. But listen, I don't know. I have to believe that there'll be Cardinal money, and if there's not, and the Cardinals are going for the house, that's not going to be a bad position the way they're playing.
Yeah, I'm very confused by the way this has moved. Very confused by the way this has moved. But hey,
Might come back.
Who knows? The Jets maybe the Jet offense has found something in that second half against Houston. Maybe. No. Could have happened there because Devontae Adams looked like himself again in that second half for New York. In that win last Thursday against Houston. Here's the other team that was in that game. The Texans are back home against the Lions. So the Texans did start Nico Collins' window to return off designated IR today. I still think it's a long shot for Collins to be in this game on Sunday. Now, he could try to play, even though he was at practice today. He could try to play, and maybe he's not 100%. The big question mark in this game for Houston against Detroit, who's been pummeling everyone, even though the offensive numbers don't match up the last 2 weeks. Can Houston possibly block this Lions front? Even with no Aiden Hutchinson, after what Vinny mentioned it, the Jets got pressure on the passer for the first time last week against Houston. I think that had to do with the Texans' offensive line more so than anything. It's 3.5 at home. Lions favored on the road against the Texans. This is, boy, I'm looking for reasons to bet Houston, but I know the Sharps like them this week, but I can't quite get there, Chris.
I can't either. I know the Sharps like them. They're always looking to bet a home dog coming off of fairly embarrassing loss on national TV. But this Lions team, they're just a juggernaut right now. I think they're playing well. They're doing everything right. And, I made the number 5. It's not, a huge advantage. But I did think that they deserved to be more than 4. I opened at 4 because I thought the wise guys would take it, and they did. So I'm at 3.5. Might even wind up with a 3 on this game. I don't know. If we do wind up there, you better go fast, because if anybody goes at 3, other than us, it's going to be 3 with a ton of juice. But I like the Lions in this spot. It's not going to be one of my plays, but I definitely like the Lions, and I'm trying to maneuver things so I can need the Lions Sunday night. It's going to be hard to do, though. The public will be all over this team.
Lions go back indoors. Right, the one last week, were the only game that they've played outside, and did a great job. And great running game. They relied on their defense when Hutchinson went out. A lot of blitzing. Well, don't forget they made a move too. They picked up Zadarius Smith from Cleveland.
Yes,
now, I don't
did.
know if he'll be available for this game.
Looks like he will be.
Okay, well then he's still got to get used to it. I mean, I can't imagine him being in on every play, but it only helps that team, right? He's a good edge rusher. Probably going to fit in good. He's with a contender now, so look for him to be how much he impacts this game. Not sure, but he's certainly going to be a big addition to the team that's really looking to be. I mean, we talk about power ratings in college, right? Right now, Lions are. Chris, they're my top rated power team in the NFL. So, that's but this one here, 3.5. Yeah, this. Will it go back to 4? I don't think so. I don't know if it'll go back to the opener. I doubt it.
I like I said, looking for reasons to bet Houston. I just can't find it. But
first place schedule this year, too, right? It's starting to show. They're good. Don't get me wrong, but
Stroud did not play well in that game on Thursday night. But if that offensive line is going to keep playing like they played this year, he's going to get hurt. It's just going to happen at this.
This defense is better than the Jets' defense.
Probably. Probably.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Jet defense has been too inconsistent this year.
Jets, yes. That I 100% agree with you on that for sure. There's Houston scheduled the rest of the way. And, boy, they kind of who knows? Who knows? Maybe Cooper Rush will beat Philadelphia, and that game has a little bit of a different tender next week on Monday night for the Battle of Texas. Mm-hmm. All right, last game for us before we get to Chris's plays this week. The Dolphins go to L.A. to take on the Rams. This is a fascinating Monday night game. This is one of the most interesting games of the whole week for me, because you're in a scenario here for the Dolphins where if you lose this game, your season is done. You're 2-7. You're not coming back from that. The Rams played the Rams and the Seahawks played, I thought, was the weirdest game of the entire NFL season last week, where the Seahawks do nothing the whole first half, score 2 touchdowns in the last 45 seconds to take a 10-point lead into the break. Then they keep getting the ball into the red zone, and they keep turning the ball over. And then the Rams find a way to win in overtime on a touchdown they didn't necessarily need. Also, Puka Nacua gets tossed for throwing a punch in the first half of that game.
That seems so out of character.
Very bizarre.
What happened to that island? Cool,
he's Samoan, right?
Hang loose.
Yeah,
I think he's Samoan.
What a weirdo game, but the Rams won it, which was an important win for them to get back to 500. Chris, I think your number's right on here. With the Rams as the smallest favorite possible, as a 1-point favorite with a total of 50. This has been bet down from 2.5. I like this better than the opener because I think this is a square pick game where I think it's just going to come down to which quarterback plays better. If Stafford plays better, the Rams win. If Tua plays better, the Dolphins will win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I made the number 2.
Yeah.
So, 1, 2. but wouldn't play anything
Splitting
that was
hairs.
out there. You know, whatever I need on Monday night, I guess will be fine. I don't know. I see with Ryan McCormick's power ratings, he's got the Rams at number
he's
9.
high on the Rams.
He's high on the Rams, higher than I am. Although I think the Rams are okay, but I think I would have the Rams a little bit lower. So thinking Ryan probably would like the Rams in this game. Like I said, I made it 2. I think, like you said, splitting hairs, but no real opinion here.
I think there's going to be plenty of action on both of these teams, even though it's come down initially on the Dolphins. Support for the Dolphins. If we go into the game needing the Rams, I think that's just fine, especially particularly at home. Even though I'd say they have a little bit more of a home field in LA than the Chargers.
Well, yes,
do.
for
Okay,
sure.
Yeah.
So and you know what, Stafford, he's a warrior, and you know what, Rams defense is playing decent. They're a tough out, but again, all carryover is going to impact this number too. Don't forget everything from tonight or even from last night, which I always tell you that lights the fuse. This game here, this is the powder keg. We'll see how it's impacted.
I am fascinated to see how this game plays out. I'm super excited to break this down in full on Monday again. By the way, if you listen to Football Frenzy with Ryan and I yesterday, you won some money. We had a good night last night.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Keep it rolling.
You had some touchdown props.
Our
and stuff,
time,
right?
we got basically everyone there last night, including we didn't have we didn't have Tylan Wallace, but we did say that some unexpected guy is going to get in the end zone for Baltimore, and damn, we were right on that for Tylan Wallace, who was high as 31-1 for an anytime touchdown
What's wrong
last
with
night.
the $100 bet on that?
That's a good day at the office, Chris.
3,000. You
It's a
kidding me?
good day
Good
at the
job,
office
guys.
with that. All right, before we go, Chris Andrews off a nice week last week, a solid 4-1 for you last week.
What's my overall?
31-21.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll take that.
That's pretty good.
What are we on this week, Chris?
I got a bunch this week.
Oh, okay. All right, let's go for it.
All right, college, and I like the pros this week better than I like the college. So B4.
That's a rare. That's a rarity.
That's a very rare. Yeah, it's very rare. But in colleges, I like Texas Tech.
All right, we're giving 4.5.
Plus 4.5.
We're getting 4.5 with the Red Raiders there, so
I
plus
like
4.5.
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt plus 6.5 for Chris there.
Another home doggy.
Going back to my old favorite, Jeff, UL Monroe.
Monroe,
Knew it.
not
Plus
Mon-
7?
Monroe.
Monroe.
I worked with
Mon-
a guy from there.
Monroe.
Monroe.
Chris, you're getting 8.5 with that now.
You're getting 8.5.
8.5 with Monroe,
Monroe.
hosting Texas State.
Yeah. 8.5 with Monroe. Okay, now let's go to the pros.
Yep.
I like the Jags.
The Jags, 6.5.
Plus 6.5.
Yep, 6.5 against the Minnesota Vikings. Okay.
I like the Steelers.
Plus 3 with
Plus
the Steelers.
I like the Falcons.
Minus 3.5.
3.5
with this against the Saints.
Yeah. I like the Cowboys.
Plus 7.5 with Dallas.
Okay. How often do I give out a teaser?
Never.
Never.
First one.
First one ever. Can't and bet a 6-point teaser. You lay a quarter. I think it's worth laying a quarter.
2 teams.
2 teams. KC minus 2 and the Chargers minus 1.5.
The AFC West teaser there for Chris. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plays
8
this
plays?
week.
I thought it was 7. 8 plays. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Well,
Money Andrews.
Yeah. I hope so. Really, I'd be rooting for all you guys if you play them. I know I got one guy playing. Yeah.
I love that teaser, by the way. I mean,
Listen, anything could lose. It's the
Of
NFL.
course.
Anything could lose. I really like that teaser. Otherwise, I wouldn't give out a teaser if I didn't really like it.
absolutely. All right. Shout out to everyone who watched, including Roger and Minidar and Agent 87 and Marquise in the chat. Of course, Bob and Giovanni. We got you guys earlier. Thank you as always.
Thank you,
To the
guys.
crew, Jerry, Vince, Drew Dog, Ryan McCormick, Sean, and somewhere is applauding for Vinny eventually saying two-way action,
And
which will happen tomorrow.
Definitely.
Ann will be here tomorrow morning, I think.
Yes.
So she'll be ready
She'll
to go.
probably give out Duke.
Yeah. No, well, I don't know about that. Does Duke even play? Oh, Duke is
They
playing.
do play.
They
Yeah,
are.
they're getting 3.
Playing
I
NC
think.
State.
Getting 3.
Yeah, I think so. That's not a good game.
Yeah, I probably would bet Duke if anybody, but it's 2 bad teams.
All right. We'll see you again tomorrow on this channel at 8 a.m. Alex White and I get you ready for college football. Vinny will be in as well at 8:45. to get you ready for a college football Saturday. We'll see you then right here on Sports by the Book.